This is college football on the CBS College Sports Network. Tonight, a primetime matchup between undefeated and fourth-ranked TCU and the defending Mountain West Conference champs, number 16 Utah. This game being brought to you in stunning high definition from beautiful Fort Worth, Texas. And welcome, everybody. I'm Tom Hart. We've got a full roster of folks to bring you this broadcast. Our partner, Aaron Taylor, will join me in one moment. We'll introduce you to sideline reporter Lauren Shahadi, and Adam Zucker and Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart, are both on site. But first, the primetime players. The purple people from TCU think that they have a shot at a BCS national championship. But to get there, they're going to need a little bit of help. Here's what we know. Number 1, Florida, and number 2, Alabama will face off in the SEC title game on CBS Sports. Their winner all but has secured a spot in the national championship. Texas figures to be a favorite as well. Remaining games at home against Kansas, and then a rivalry game in Kyle Field against Texas A&M, and the Big 12 title game. Out of the Big East comes Cincinnati. A necessary win last night, and still remaining a trip to number 12, Pittsburgh. Which brings us back to TCU and my partner Aaron Taylor. How do the Horned Frogs match up with the elite?
I think they match up very, very well. The history has shown that non-automatic qualifiers can bust people in the mouth, just like Utah did to Alabama last year. They are physical up front on both sides of the football. They're athletic. They have speed on the outside. This team is the only team in the country to have a top 10 offense and defense. We know that this TCU team can match up with anybody in a one-game schedule.
And we know that Utah has done it before. The original BCS Buster has been to 2 of those games. They have won them both. It all started under Urban Meyer and Alex Smith. The 2005 Fiesta Bowl belonged to the Utes with the win against the Big East champs from Pittsburgh. They're at it again with a beatdown on Bourbon Street against Alabama last year. This Utah team has won 22 of its last 23 games. It boggles my mind, my man, that they've been pushed to the back burner this week.
No respect, no respect. This Utah team, do not sleep on them. They're not just going to lay down. They're the reigning Mountain West Conference champion. They're the ones that are used to being here in this spot. They're no stranger to big ball games. If TCU wants the Mountain West in the national championship, they're going to have to snatch it out of the hands of Utah.
All right, let's get an update on the BCS picture in college football today. Let's go downstairs to my good friend, Adam Zucker.
Well, Tom, if I'm your good friend, and I've got about 50,000 purple-clad friends hanging out down here. We are high above the corner of the end zone here at Amon Carter Stadium. There is not a seat available except for the ones that the band will be taking after they clear the field. It is an amazing atmosphere. People have been grilling all day. It is purple everywhere right now, and a lot of these fans have been watching the scoreboard even last night when it was Cincinnati trying to stay undefeated, and another close one, the Bearcats over West Virginia, 24-21. Tony Pike, a couple touchdown passes in that one, just 4 pass attempts, and Brian Kelly saying he's going to start going forward. Meanwhile, Texas, TCU would love to have seen them go down, but this afternoon, Colt McCoy, a couple touchdown passes to tie David Green for the most wins in FBS history by a quarterback with 42. And Florida, it was a tight one, visiting Steve Spurrier, an interception leading to a late Tim Tebow rushing touchdown. Florida has now won 20 straight, and Boise State has never lost a WAC home game. Kellen Moore, 21 points they put up in the first quarter, beating the Vandals 63-25. And Alabama and Miss State kicking off at 7 Eastern time. Still no score in that game right now. Anthony Dixon averaging 125 yards on the ground for Mississippi State up against a Bama team, as we bring in Tony Barnhart here, that doesn't allow too much. But big picture for TCU and their fans. You talk to coaches, you talk to the writers. What do people need to see happen to elevate TCU over some of those potential one-loss teams?
Well, if you're TCU, what you've got to do tonight is you've got to think about all the voters in the Harris poll, 114 voters, all the voters in the coaches poll, 59 voters. You have got to come out here tonight and make a statement that says if the SEC champ, if Texas drops, if something happens, we are the natural team to fill that slot in the BCS championship. You saw what Boise State did today. TCU, in my opinion, has got to come out here and match that kind of intensity. They need to win. They need to win impressively. And if they can, and one of those teams stumbles at them, they can absolutely move into that BCS spot.
Well, a lot of intensity as the Horned Frogs took the field here, getting set to face Utah. We'll be back at halftime, but now let's go back upstairs to Tom and Aaron.
All right, Adam, thank you. You know, Aaron, Tony Barnhart talked about TCU impressing voters. There's no doubt their defense passes the eye test.
Well, Gary Patterson's calling card since he got here on campus in Fort Worth has been defense. 3 out of the last 9 years, they've been ranked #1. They're #3 right now nationally, and they do all the things you want to do. They're purple people leaders. The flat-out bottom line is they get after the quarterback, and they do it by stopping the run first and forcing teams to be one-dimensional. They've got a tremendous ability to get after the passer. At the linebacker position, they have heady players that have a nose for the football, and nobody may rush the passer better than this man, Jerry Hughes.
And the man he'll be rushing is just a true freshman. Quarterback Jordan Wynn gets his second start. What's he going to look like tonight?
Jordan Wynn, as a true freshman, is going to have a rude awakening, and it could be a baptism by fire going against his defense compared to New Mexico's last week. The young man had a tremendous outing his first go-around, throwing for almost 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's going to be imperative for Jordan Wynn tonight to be able to deliver the football quickly. That means he's got to go through his read progressions, which is deep, short, intermediate, and deliver that football quickly. He doesn't want to be a sitting duck back there. He has to be able to throw the football, not make mistakes that TCU has typically made. And nothing helps out a young quarterback better than a strong running game. Eddie White has done a tremendous job filling in for injured Matt Asiata. 6 straight 100-yard rushing games. He's got power, he's got speed, and he has the ability to be able to get to the outside and make plays. One thing's for sure, Eddie White's going to have to show up tonight to take some pressure off that true freshman quarterback.
Coming into tonight, both of these teams look like champions, but it's the home team, TCU Horned Frogs, who have a new look about it. And for that, we introduce you to Lauren Shahad.
TCU, one of 11 programs to wear these new Nike jerseys. I got my hands on one. On the collar it says, "Don't back down." That is the theme of this TCU program, just like Tom Petty's won't back down. But perhaps the biggest difference, if you look on the helmet, there's 2 blood red lines going from the forehead back. You see, when Horned Frogs get frightened or cornered, they squirt blood from their eyes. A little symbolism, guys.
Indeed, symbolism tonight. I gotta say, Aaron, you look good. They look good. We're ready for kickoff here in Fort Worth. Let's take a look at the coaching matchup presented by Jeep. 2 head coaches with the roots on the defensive side of the ball. Kyle Whittingham was a defensive coordinator under Urban Meyer before he took over. Gary Patterson did the same here at TCU under Dennis Francione. So Whittingham and Patterson go head-to-head tonight. And Gary Patterson said this week coming into this game, we've let the city down before. We do not want to let the town of Fort Worth down again. 5 10-plus win seasons in the last 7 years, but a host of bad losses when they could have been or should have been undefeated. Meanwhile, for Kyle Whittingham, 5th year as the head man in Utah, he's 5-3 in his career against AP-ranked teams. No win was bigger for the program and for the entire Mountain West Conference than the victory against Alabama last year in the Sugar Bowl. It set the stage for the national respect that the conference has earned now. These fans have been whipped in a frenzy since the early morning hours, and a 6:30 local time kickoff on a warm day in Texas is just what they ordered. Utah won the toss. They have deferred, and they will kick off to TCU. Smart decision. You don't want your freshman quarterback out there on the outset, do you?
No, you don't. You want him to have an opportunity to be able to let his nerves settle down, get a feel for the game, get a feel for the crowd, get a feel for the speed of this game. Tom, he's going to see a much different defense than he saw last week.
TCU is great in all aspects, and take a look at Jeremy Curley. He is a superstar return man. He's already brought 2 punts back for touchdowns. He's one of the best return men in the nation, and he is electric. Ben Roman gets us underway from Fort Worth. Curley, 5 yards deep. He wants to bring it out, and the opening kick returned to the 13-yard line for TCU. Let's take a look at our quarterback profile and junior starter Andy Dalton.
Well, the red-headed wonder has game-winning accuracy, 4th and passing efficiency, where it means he gets the ball where it needs to be. He's moxified. It means he's tough. He stands there in the pocket. He's a tough ball player and the unheralded leader there. And finally, he's proficiently efficient, Tom. He takes care of the football.
Andy Dalton is the 2nd winningest quarterback in TCU's grand history. He is second only to Hall of Famer Sammy Baugh. It's a fantastic running game for TCU, but they'll start with an empty backfield. Wesley comes in motion to join Dalton, and Ed Wesley on 1st down takes it to the left side, picks up perhaps a couple, if that. Let's meet Aaron's difference makers for TCU.
Well, first off, we have running back Joseph Turner. He's the Doak Walker Award watch list. It's imperative for TCU to run the football, but they have a running back by committee, and Ed Wesley does a good job out of the backfield. And finally, double threat Jeremy Curley. Expect him to get busy in the pass game tonight.
Redshirt freshman Wesley is out on the field now for TCU. They go 5 wide. Turner on the sideline for now. They have 3 fantastic running backs, and all will get touches throughout this game. 2nd and 8. Dalton wants to put it in the air. Go route down the sideline is incomplete, and a flag comes out. He was looking for Bart Johnson, and it was Joe Dale, the safety, who had the coverage.
It was man coverage on that. Utah thought they would be able to match up well on the outside. Utah knows going in this ball game they cannot afford to be passive.
10-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
It's early in a big ball game. Everybody's excited. You run the clear out, and doing a good job, Bart Johnson, of just getting up there, getting a little too aggressive on the outside, Tom. That's something typically that you'll see early in a ball game until the nerves settle.
Kyle Whittingham already full force into this one tonight. 1st and 10, and they come straight up the middle with Joseph Turner. Let's meet the difference makers now on defense for the Utah Utes.
Linebacker Mike Wright led Utah with 81 tackles last year. He's got a tremendous nose for the football. He'll call his number a lot tonight. Koamisi, defensive tackle, 3rd in the team in tackles, does a good job coming off the edge as well. And finally, safety Robert Johnson's. He's got a nose for the football. Andy Dalton doesn't turn it over a lot, but if they do, it'll probably be in Johnson's hands.
Johnson took it away on TCU's final drive 53 weeks ago to seal the victory at Rice-Eccles Stadium. He's been tremendous against Andy Dalton this season. Dave Kruger with the tackle for Utah. He moves into a starting role for the Utes up front as they have lost Kenape Eliapo to an eye injury. Curtis Clay, the junior from Lockhart, Texas, gets the call. 3rd down coming up, and you can see the starters for TCU scroll across the top of your screen. Keep an eye on number 13, Antoine Hicks. Dangerous receiver for Andy Dalton.
3rd down is going to be critical tonight on the year. TCU is 43%. They've got to keep themselves in 3rd and short, and that running game will help them do it.
5th best in the conference. Dalton lets it go. Complete. He finds Ryan Christian, and Christian has the 1st down up to the 41-yard line before he's wrestled to the ground by Ryan Lacey.
Ryan Christian is somebody that's getting back involved in this offense. Had a huge game last week. Tremendous speed, this young man. 3 catches for 106 yards and had the first 2 pass-catching touchdowns of his career. Ryan Christian is somebody that can put a lot of pressure on defense, especially when he drags across the field on nice pass play.
And Christian has evolved. Last year he was a running back that sometimes played receiver. This season a wide receiver through and through, but they will give him carries on end arounds and such. 1st and 10. Dalton incomplete. Almost picked off, threw it right by Joe Dale.
Yeah, they seem to be on different pages on that one. You have to be able to settle down. It's not unnatural to be able to have these sort of things happen early on in ball games. But what I like so far from what I've seen from TCU's offense is they're doing a good job of mixing it up. They're taking shots down the field. They're coming back running inside. They're bringing people across the box. What they're trying to do is smoke out Utah's defense and see what they're going to run.
Dalton will tuck and run, and Dalton will get to the logo, past midfield, and he dives forward for a TCU 1st down. Kepa Geishin finally with the stop.
This is something that when you talk about Andy Dalton, not a lot of people mention, but he's tremendously fast. He makes plays with his feet. Last week, he showed up big time against San Diego State, scoring 2 rushing touchdowns. This is the moxie that we talked about. This young man's not afraid to tuck the football and smack it up inside.
And now he has more support behind him. You see what he's done with his running game after not being asked to do much as a redshirt freshman. Matthew Tucker, the freshman in the backfield. Swing pass complete, and that is the first catch of the game for Jeremy Curley. And already Andy Dalton doing a good job sharing the football. R.J. Stanford had the stop.
Utah bringing some heat on that. They brought the inside backer and trying to get some pressure on Andy Dalton. Talking to their defensive coordinator, Kalani Sitake, they thought it was going to be important to be able to pressure Dalton, get his feet moving. That's one of the things he did in last year's loss. He had happy feet.
2nd and 5. Up the middle is the freshman Tucker, and he busts loose. Matthew Tucker has found the end zone, and TCU scores on its first drive. A 46-yard sprint for the true freshman out of Tyler, Texas.
This is the physical style of football that we talked about. Tucker does a good job as a freshman with the stiff arm and has good top-end speed to be able to get down the field and punch it in the end zone. Very good job blocking up front by this TCU offensive line. This game tonight, whoever wins the battle on both sides of the football will win the game. TCU establishing itself early on that they came to play.
Ross Evans puts the extra point through. After a 46-yard run for the speedster Tucker, TCU strikes first tonight in Fort Worth. That balance attack for the Horned Frogs pays off. It's a 5th rushing touchdown of the season for Tucker.
Hey, Jimmy Football here. What's the problem with the taste of wheat? All that wheat. Set, hike. Ah!
And we welcome you back to Fort Worth as the Horned Frogs strike first. An 8-play, 87-yard drive. Took 3:27 off the clock. They mix it up a bit. 2 passes, 6 rushes on the play. Kevin Sharples will kick it off here tonight for TCU. And 2 dangerous returners back for the Utes. Jeremy Brooks and Devontae Christopher. Christopher from the 6. And the former high school quarterback gets popped. Lost the football. TCU recovers. Malcolm Williams comes up with the takeaway, and the Horned Frogs are looking good in more ways than one.
I'll tell you what, Utah talked about being able to match the intensity, but it's TCU that's bringing it lit. Listen to this, folks. That's called getting taken to the woodshed, buddy. These guys are jacked up, flying around, turning the football over. Is the same thing that TCU did last year. Utah is not matching the intensity of this Horned Frog team. It's going to be very important for their defense to come up with a play and get a moral victory, if anything, and force them to kick a field goal.
It was Tyler Luttrell who separated man from football. And it's a similar start this season as it was last year in Salt Lake City, where TCU dominated early, but Utah came back late. Pass batted away at the line of scrimmage will set up a 2nd and 10. It was Silver Salinga, the sophomore from West Jordan, Utah, who knocked it down.
Well, a lot of times when defensive linemen bat balls down, it's because they're not getting pressure, but Salinga did a good job of beating the offensive guard on that play. That's something that Utah can do up front on the defensive line, is get after the passer.
Tonight's Red Zone is brought to you by Moto Blur. Joseph Turner is the tailback. Curtis Clay goes in motion. Dalton, with the lead blocker, takes it forward for perhaps 4 yards on 2nd down, and that will set up 3rd. This is what happened on the first drive of the game for the TCU Horned Frog just moments ago.
Well, it started out with a pass interference penalty on the outside. Bart Johnson, the defender, getting a little too aggressive. And then Andy Dalton doing what he does, finding Ryan Christian, one of the most athletic players, and then making plays with your feet. TCU did a good job in that first series of switching it up, and then finally get the freshman Matthew Tucker the football, showing that good top-end speed and a nose for the end zone. TCU's offense is dictating the tempo and doing a very good job thus far.
Offside. Number 98 of the defense. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
TCU's no-huddle offense caused Utah to jump. It was Salinga again, and TCU was nowhere close to snapping the ball when Salinga came over the line. So that moves them closer, and instead of 3rd and 6, they're looking at a 3rd and 1. That changes things all of a sudden, doesn't it?
No question, it opens up your playbook and gives offensive coordinator Justin Fuente and Jared Anderson a lot more options.
Joseph Turner with the carry. Bottled up. He won't make it back to the line of scrimmage. Great penetration up front. Derek Shelby and Lee Telemiavo in there for the stop for Utah, and that will bring up 4th down.
Derek Shelby's only a sophomore, but he leads Utah with tackles for loss and 9th in the Mountain West Conference. doing a great job of getting penetration. A couple times on running plays, Utah's defensive line has done a good job getting that penetration. That's what they're going to have to be able to do to force this field goal. That's a good defensive hold for this Utah team.
Here's Ross Evans, who missed just 4 field goals last year, but 2 of them came in the showdown with Utah. A disheartening game for Evans, and he sails one wide left. It is not the start that Ross Evans was looking for tonight. TCU can't take advantage of the turnover. They still lead by a score. 7-0, fourth-ranked TCU leads Utah. 9:52 to go in the first quarter. A missed opportunity for the kicker, Ross Evans. Gary Patterson told us yesterday that after Ross Evans missed a pair of field goals against Utah last year, he didn't say anything to his kicker. I think sometimes he said it's better just to leave him alone. I'm sure the special teams coach had a word with him, but for me, it was the most disappointing locker room I've ever been in. 100 faces, and none of them had a dry eye as TCU missed the opportunity. Now Evans, the loneliest guy in this stadium of 50,000 plus, I'm sure he just wants another chance. Second chance to start for freshman Jordan Wynn out of Oceanside, California. And the pressure is on. Wynn hands off to Wide, and a burst up the middle for Eddie Wide picks up 5. Wayne Daniels brings him down. Let's take a look at the quarterback profile for Jordan Wynn.
Jordan Wynn's unconscious. That doesn't mean he plays asleep, but it means when he makes a mistake, he forgets about it. Good eye discipline. His reads go from deep, short to middle, just like they should, and he's a long baller. He likes to throw the deep ball. If he does that tonight, you better get rid of it quickly.
2 games ago, Wynn took over the starting job from junior college transfer Terrence Kane. He entered in the second half of the Wyoming game and led Utah to a come-from-behind win. Just 1 yard for Wide that time. First stop for Hughes. Let's meet Utah's difference makers.
Speaking of Hughes, right tackle Tony Bergstrom's going to be going against him all night. He's going to have to have a big game and create room for this guy, Eddie Wide Jr., doing a great job, 6 straight 100-yard games. And finally, David Reed is going to have to take advantage of what they think is a mismatch on the outside, something that they can get some plays downfield.
And a correction from earlier, it was Reed who fumbled the kickoff return that set TCU up, but the Utes defense stood tall. 3rd and 4 for Jordan Wynn. He was 24-1-1 as a starter at Oceanside High School. Happy feet. Wynn steps up, flips it out, and it's complete for a first down to Jeremy Brooks. Tank Carter had to stop. Here are TCU's difference makers defensively.
For TCU, it starts up front with defensive end Jerry Hughes. He's such a good player. 26 career sacks, does a great job coming off the edge. And behind him is Darrell Washington, quite possibly the most athletic player on the team. And finally, weak safety Alex Ibaloye. He's kind of a hybrid between a safety and a linebacker. He's going to have to show up big tonight against the run and pass.
It's a 4-2-5 defensive scheme for Gary Patterson and the Horned Frogs. Wynn, play action. He's got a little bit of time. Now he chucks it incomplete. The pressure that time came from middle linebacker Tank Carter. You can see the offensive starters up front for Utah, and you can see TCU bringing the heat.
Tank Carter, they're bringing pressure. That's what they want to do. You knew it was going to happen. He's a freshman quarterback. He comes unblocked, some miscommunication up front, but that's what you want to do as a defense on play action, is be able to make the quarterback think about where people are coming from. TCU's trying to rattle this young man early.
Tank Carter, a sophomore from Sweeney, Texas, came on the blitz. On this season, TCU primarily got pressure from only their front 4, and the majority of the sacks came from the big guys up front. A change of direction and nothing going that time for Eddie Wide III. So Tank Carter in on another stop. He's used to the spotlight. In fact, as just a youngster, as 3 years old, he started riding bikes competitively, and then his career took off. He was a BMX world champion at the age of 10. So what did he do? He decided to retire on top after winning the championship in France and a 10-time national champion. He said, it's time to change my outlook. I'm the best at that. Let's move on to football, folks.
God, might as well go out while you're on top. Tremendous nose for the football, this young man.
3rd and 13. Horned Frogs show blitz. They bring 5. Wynn with time. Incomplete, looking for Brooks. Coverage by Darrell Washington. Aaron, who are they bringing?
They're bringing people up the outside. They're trying to mix and match and do all the things that they can. They're definitely making a concerted effort. Keep an eye on the left side of your screen, being physical. Latrell bringing the wood, and the bottom line is Jordan Wynn just didn't have time to set his feet and complete the ball. That's going to be a recipe that Utah's going to have to find a way to take advantage of, because it's clear TCU is going to bring the heat tonight.
Sean Selwood to punt it away. Jeremy Curley, a highlight waiting to happen. Pressured, and he gets swallowed up by a pair of Utes, and there's nothing doing for Jeremy Curley on that punt return. It was speed down the field from cornerback Brandon Burton, and TCU will set up shop on the 20. 7-0 TCU, third opportunity for the Horned Frogs offense in just one moment. Low Senior Class Award honors the nation's top senior who excels in the classroom, in the community, demonstrates outstanding character, and brings a spirit of competition to their sport. Here are the finalists, and you'll notice we've got a couple in action and in uniform tonight. Left tackle Zane Beadles for Utah, and you've already been introduced to Jerry Hughes, not only a communications major, but honored as a local hero and Bank of America award winner. Zane Beadles can be found at his writing desk, penning a weekly column for the Sporting News. Sky Dawson is in the game. The freshman track star goes in motion, and they fake to him and take it right up the right side for Joseph Turner. Ball came loose and ends up going out of bounds, but it will stay with TCU. Aaron, that's our first look at Sky Dawson, number 30 for TCU. He is a threat even if he doesn't touch the football.
There's no question. He's got so much speed, so defenses are going to have to respect him. But TCU doing a good job of using some misdirection in the backfield. They think that the linebackers a lot of times over pursue, so they're going to smoke them out and make them stay true to what it is they're doing. TCU, one of the things they do well is pound it up inside. They're doing a great job so far.
Stevenson Sylvester punched the ball out, so instead of a first down, it's 2nd and 4 for Dalton working out of the shotgun. Play action. Dalton. A bullet incomplete. Looking for Bart Johnson that time. Second time Dalton has looked for Johnson. The first time he drew a flag. That time Lamar Chapman had good coverage on him.
Yeah, he did, and I was surprised that Andy Dalton threw him the ball. Jimmy Young on the other side was wide open with a little bit more space. You see very good coverage by the defender there, and the ball overthrown a little high. You see right there at the bottom, Jimmy Young circling and throwing his hands up in the air saying, hey man, I was wide open, give me the rock, buddy.
Jimmy Young was the go-to guy this year. Last year he's the forgotten man this season, as so many different weapons have emerged for TCU offensively. Dalton pressured, steps away from Koamisi, fires an incomplete pass that was bobbled by a couple of guys down the sideline. There is a flag on the play.
Keep your eye on right defensive end number 41, Koamisi. Does a great job rushing the passer and is causing a lot of problems
Holding
there.
number 70 the offense. That penalty declines. 4th down.
And he was working on left tackle Marshall Newhouse.
Yeah, he's got 3.5 sacks this year. He's over here on the corner. Does a great job of timing the snap, getting upside. Marshall Newhouse doesn't take a good sack, and he's almost able to get his hips around. That may be a mismatch that they think that they can take advantage of. Keep your eyes on that for the rest of this game. Third and tackles on this team is a defensive end. He's Utah's version of Jerry Hughes.
Anson Kelton, a horrible kick off the side of his foot. It goes to the TCU bench. Now, we told you before that TCU is fantastic in 3 areas: offense, defense, and in the return game, but the kicking game has left a lot to be desired tonight. Watch how it comes off of the foot of Kelton.
Not a good job. Kelton, typically a decent punter. Very clearly, the special teams at TCU aren't really stepping up and doing their job. To be a good football team and to play and think about that you can play in the national championship, you got to be able to play well in all 3 phases. And right now, it's only TCU's offense and defense that's playing well.
Tonight's real-time fan poll question brought to you by Burger King. Which of the following 3 matchups do you want to see in the BCS National Championship game? Text C1, C2, or C3 to 88222 now. Texas versus the SEC, TCU versus the Longhorns, or TCU versus the SEC champ. A whistle to stop play before Wynn got the snap. The play clock reads 0-0.
Got a freshman quarterback on the road, loud crowd
Prior
noise.
to the delay, timeout, Utah. They're first at half.
Utah able to use a timeout. The coaching staff helping out the freshman Jordan Wynn, who back on August 14th was the #1 quarterback in two-a-days. Kane took over for him, and now it's back to the freshman. 7-0 TCU from Fort Worth. (7-0). Fourth-ranked TCU trying to stay undefeated leads Utah. A possible berth in the BCS national title game could await an undefeated TCU team. Let's take another look at our Burger King fan poll. And thus far, the folks want to see a Texas-sized showdown. TCU and Mac Brown's Longhorns, who destroyed Baylor today. You know, Baylor had a freshman quarterback out there once again, and so does Utah. And Lauren Shahadi's down on the field. And Lauren, it's kind of a new look Jordan Wynn.
That's right, Tom. Aaron, Jordan Wynn worked hard to get where he's at. They told him he needed to gain some weight. He would force himself to eat 7,000 to 10,000 calories a day. He gained 43 pounds. He said it was all worth it. This is the biggest game of his life, guys.
All right, thanks, Lauren. Yeah, he said, you know, I threw up a couple of times. I'm getting up at 2 a.m. to have a shake or a sandwich. But he's put on the pounds. They think that makes him more durable. He has time, and he dials deep. Incomplete. Raphael Priest had the coverage. He was looking for Luke Matthews. Well, that is what Jordan Wynn can do. And, Aaron, they're going to take a couple of shots. They're not all going to pan out, but they think they're going to hit one of them eventually.
No question. That's the way he was coached up in high school. And Raphael Priest running stride for stride with the receiver. That's what they do on the outside. Raphael Priest had his ankles beat up a little bit, but there he looked like he was pretty healthy getting down the sideline in man coverage.
All right, Wynn stays on the sideline for this play. New quarterback in the game, Shaky Smithson, former wide receiver, now a running back, and Smithson lowers his head straight up the middle. He ran right into a tank, literally Tank Carter with the stop.
Tank Carter having a great game so far. Middle linebackers typically have a job to be able to do. He's a Sam linebacker actually, but keep your eye on him. He's right here. Great job having a feel for the football. He knows that the quarterback, the guy getting the ball, is going to be where he's going to be, and he stays home. He doesn't leave his lane. He doesn't try to do too much. When the door opens, Tank Carter hit it and came up with a big tackle, forcing a 3rd and long, something that Utah will be well advised to stay away from tonight.
Without a running quarterback in Kane, Utah has to bring in wildcat formations to get a running game. And now Wynn scrambles, wants to float one down the sideline, has a man, first down, Utes. It's Devontae Christopher with the grab, and didn't Jordan Wynn look like a veteran on that one?
Did a great job eluding the rush that comes from his left and blind side. They're trying to overload, but they bring a corner fire from the outside. Jordan Wynn keeping his feet alive, and the receiver doing a good job getting behind the coverage. That's rare that a young freshman quarterback and receiver can be on the same page. You usually see that in sophomore and junior quarterback, but the skill position people of Utah showing veteran play, especially from a true freshman quarterback. Great job by Utah.
They went for 31 yards. Wynn with another breather. Smithson back in to take the direct snap. Smithson with the draw. Touchdown, Utah. That was a perfect drive for the Utes.
And they did it by keeping them off balance and taking advantage of TCU. Like we said, hasn't blitzed all year, but they also have the ability to run the football. Great job. Look at that hole right there. Those are running lanes. Tom, you and I could run through there and hit our heads on the goalpost. Utah on that drive took control of the line of scrimmage, something they're going to have to be able to do. This is going to turn into a very physical football game.
It already is, I think. So Phillips punches it through. It's the first touchdown of the season for Shaky Smithson, who's not just a football player, he's a legal guardian of his little brother as well. Oh, I think Anthony Fish is pretty happy right now. We're all tied at 7 apiece. And for more on Shaky Smithson, let's go down to Lauren Shahadi.
That's right. He earned his name from his moves on the basketball court when he was growing up. There was a lot of drugs and violence where he was living. He decided he didn't want to deal with any of that, and he decided Anthony, his 15-year-old brother, could come with him to Salt Lake City. Anthony lives with Shaky in Salt Lake City. He uses his scholarship money to take care of him. Anthony has a 4.0.
Lauren, fantastic job. Thanks. You may remember Shaky Smithson from the HBO documentary Hard Times at Douglas High. He was featured as a fantastic basketball player, as she said, and now as a guardian and a student athlete, he's been nominated for the FedEx Orange Bowl Courage Award. Brother Anthony goes by the nickname Fish. He's 15 years old. He was a nice get for Highland High School as well. Bring him in, put him out there on the freshman team, and he's doing well. What an answer by the Utah offense. Roman would kick off to Curley again. This will be McCoy 5 yards in. Curley advises him to take a knee. So the big redhead, Andy Dalton, back on the field for the TCU Horned Frogs. Second in school history in career yards, second in completion percentage, and second with 26 wins. And TCU this season has featured one of the most balanced offenses in the nation. They are top 10 offense to go with a top 10 defense. They've scored 30 points or better in 7 of their 9 games, all wins. And they've racked up more than 400 yards 6 of 9 games. Dalton is 4th in the NCAA in pass efficiency. On the ground this time, a big pop, and Wesley stays on his feet for a couple more yards.
One of the things that TCU's offense likes to do as well is use tempo to their advantage. They think that they can get some plays with the defense guessing and not really necessarily lined up. So keep an eye for them to kind of mix and match the tempo. This offense, talking with Coach Patterson, is pretty chill. They're relaxed. They're not a bunch of rah-rah guys. They're just guys that like playing together and play relaxed.
And that kind of goes against Gary Patterson, doesn't it?
No question. He said that he had to be able to change the way he coaches. He's not used to it. He said, hey, I'm still going to do what I do on game day, which is maybe be a little vocal and express some comfort or just some concern with the way things are going, and maybe some interesting ways to tell him that. But this offense is unflappable, and he's had to adjust, but that's the mark of a good coach.
3rd and 3 for Dalton and company. It was specifically the Clemson game in the rain on the road this season. In the second half, offensive coordinator Jared Anderson said guys weren't complaining, they weren't fired up, they very calmly went about their business and let it come from behind win. Another grab for Ryan Christian, coming off of a career game against San Diego State.
This is what TCU does so well. They test you on the outside with their skilled players. They're feeding the ball to Ryan Christian, trying to get him the ball one-on-one in space and make people miss. That stretches the defense out, and their answer to that is switch back up and hit you inside with a run.
Dalton to throw again, and he fires a strikeout to Barton Johnson, and Johnson finally gets hog-tied, and with the face mask constantly coming, he takes it out to the 49. Silver Salinga was in there on the stop. I was impressed by the Utah defense in the last TCU drive.
Personal foul, face mask, number 98 of the defense. 15-yard penalty, first down.
On that last drive, Aaron, they were able to battle against the turnover and the offsides penalty by Salinga and hold TCU scoreless. This is a major penalty, and it takes them all the way down to the 36-yard line.
Yeah, and Salinga had a penalty on that drive, but the defense was able to hold firm, particularly in the red zone. It's an unfortunate missed opportunity for them, but this is the story of the game last year for TCU, was turnovers and penalties, and Utah needs to be careful that that doesn't happen for them tonight.
14-yard pass play, 15-yard penalty, pass complete, and breakaway speed shown by Jimmy Young. Robert Johnson finally had to stop, and Young had something to say about it.
One of the things that you can do to try and beat the pressure is run the inside bubble screen. Keep your eye on the right side of the screen. Just get the ball to the receiver very quickly and get upfield.
Speaking of quick, TCU goes quick tempo, but it doesn't pay off because Curley has his feet come out from under him, trying to get to the corner.
when you switch up the tempo, it puts a lot of pressure because a lot of times defenses want to switch out personnel, flag on the field as we're talking here, but it makes a lot of pressure on the defense because when TCU sees a personnel grouping that they like, that's when they like to run up tempo and maybe call something that they can take advantage of.
This is a CFO West crew here, and they have been kept busy tonight.
Illegal substitution on the defense. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Well, that's not a call that you often hear going against the defense, but it was likely TCU's up-tempo that caused it.
Run to perfection.
7th play of this drive coming up. They've already covered 65 yards, 15 of those, actually 20 of those now thanks to penalty. 5 wide for TCU. Dalton finds Christian again. Christian makes a man miss to the pylon and in. Touchdown, TCU.
TCU liking what they're seeing on the outside. Christian really starting to come on, but keep your eye on him. Makes Joe Dale miss out in space. You talk about the spread offense, you have to be able to tackle. Ryan Christian one-on-one is winning his matchups, and TCU's taking advantage of it. Great pitch and catch and execution by this Horned Frog offense.
Was touchdown.
They will review that play. They want to see if Ryan Christian may have stepped out of bounds. We'll give you a look at it. You know, I was at practice the other day, and I just got the feeling with Ryan Christian that he was kind of a guy who was being forgotten about. They were bringing in Sky Dawson as a speedster, and Christian said, wait a second, I got some wheels too, and I got some moves. And Christian down the sideline looked like he got in cleanly.
There's no question he got in cleanly and does a great job of having the wherewithal to know where the sideline is. It's close, but his feet stay in bounds. The ball crosses the plane, and again, it all started with that great move on Joe Dale, a senior who's returning to the lineup from last week with his first start. Hurt his knee in Las Vegas game and maybe got his feeling hurts on that one a little bit as well.
Well, Christian is a Texas kid with a California attitude. Laid back, a little bit different, kind of a goofball out there on the field. He had multicolor hair last year. You see he's got the streaks of the eye black going down his face here tonight. And whatever he's doing, it's working.
The ruling on the field is confirmed. Touchdown.
A career game last week against San Diego State. Christian netted 106 yards on just 3 catches. And Andy Dalton has gone to him 3 times already tonight. Here's Kelton. Pardon me, Ross Evans with the extra point after a missed field goal on the last drive. Evans has banged through both of his extra points. A fantastic atmosphere here tonight at Amon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth. And the whole town has gone purple, getting ready for this.
They've been fired up for it all day long. People in purple, and I'll tell you what, whoever's selling purple sundresses and t-shirts is making a killing. This entire town is all purpled out. This is one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game here at this stadium with so much on the line. TCU finally starting to settle down and responding. Utah hurting themselves with penalties.
All right, let's take a look at the last drive for Utah, and under the direction of freshman quarterback Jordan Wynn. Wynn was able to elude the TCU pressure, and on the rollout, dialed deep, and that is his strength and why he's in the game. That was Devontae Christopher with the catch, and then Shaky Smithson in the direct snap was able to take it the rest of the way. For this mighty TCU defense, that was the first touchdown allowed at home this season. That deserves a wow.
There's no question. They do a pretty dang good job on that side of the football. But it all started with TCU bringing pressure and getting hurt by it.
Here's Shaky from the 6. And he takes it out to the 29-yard line. Solid return for Shaky Smithson. He's been the do-everything guy already tonight for the Utah Utes.
I'll would expect Utah's offense to kind of settle down. They've had some success, so their confidence is going to be there. They're still probably in the part of their script where they're trying to get a bead on what TCU is doing. You want to be able to take the pressure off Jordan Wynn, and so far they've done that. You want to talk about a confidence booster as a freshman to face this TCU defense and have them blitz you and you be able to beat it. That's the way you want to start out a ball game.
All right, Jordan Wynn, a true freshman, was an early enrollee. Wide, gets swallowed up in the backfield, and oh, Jerry Hughes. You know, we thought maybe Jerry Hughes was only good against the pass. He can get it done against the run.
There's no question he does a great job at the line of scrimmage. Keep your eye on Jerry Hughes over here on this side. Doing a good job, both of the ends coming off the side, beating the pressure, and just meeting in the hole. He has the wherewithal to stay there. His partner and partner in crime, Wayne Daniels, there on the other side, was there first, making the contact. Utah left both those guys unblocked. They can't do that.
Wynn finds his running back, Eddie Wide III, and look at the speed. Nick Sanders is out there to make the tackle. He's a cornerback. So is number 98. He covers a lot of ground.
Well, he's a converted high school running back, but he didn't even know he was going to be able to play defense until he got to his locker and saw 98 hanging up there. But he's got 4.5 speed, which is why he does such a good job being able to run sideline to sideline. This young man has a bright future in the NFL, most likely in a 3-4 defense.
Sauson Shakarine is in the backfield for Utah now. Flanking Wynn. Wynn steps up, gets hammered from behind. A huge play for Hughes.
That's what you want to do. Number 98 does a great job of coming off the edge. Keep your eye on him. He's up here at the top of the screen. Does a really good job of being able to beat the tackle. We talked about the matchup that he was going to have with Tony Bergstrom. He was going to have to be able to do good. He times a snap, gets his shoulders down, is able to close the corner. Swivel hips, being able to time the snap and getting down underneath is what makes it.
The play. Covered by TCU's Tanner Brock. Oh boy, here come the Frogs. Greg Burks bursted through.
Special teams problems have been a problem. Keep your eye on him right there. Burks does a good job. Look at the wide splits by Utah. Little fumbled snap, throws the timing a little bit off. He comes scot-free. Little bit of low snap. Does a good job going for the aiming point, which is the point of contact off the foot. That is textbook defense. Utah's going to have to get to the sidelines and take a look at that.
Burks, just a freshman, with an impact play here as we near the end of the first quarter from Fort Worth. Dalton on the draw again, and Andy Dalton picks up 9 solid yards on first down, tripped up by Naifo 2.
I'll tell you who's having a big game is number 98, Silver Salinga. He's the one that caused the pressure. Keep an eye from the right side of your screen. He's doing a good job of winning his matchup, getting inside, but Andy Dalton takes advantage of it once again using his feet.
2nd and 1. Ed Wesley joins Dalton in the backfield. He'll get a chance. And off the right side, nowhere to go. Maybe back to the line of scrimmage. It was Dave Kruger, the redshirt freshman from Orem, Utah, in on the stop. An opportunity game tonight for Kruger, whose brother Paul was a defensive end last year for Utah, and he had a magnificent game on the Thursday night matchup against TCU. Dave, the younger brother, a little bigger, a little more physical, and the coaches love what he brings to the table. What he brought then was physical play inside to set up another 3rd down. Utah has already turned them back on 1 3rd and short in the red zone. Can they do it again? 4th-ranked TCU leads Utah 14-7 on the CBS College Sports Network. 14-7 TCU as we start the second quarter from Fort Worth. Let's take a look at tonight's Macy's Bioblast on TCU center Jake Kirkpatrick. The junior from Tyler, Texas, is now the leader of the offensive line. Tough task for him this season. He had to replace Blake Schluter, and he learned from one of the best. He followed him around campus until it was Kirkpatrick's turn to start. And he'll be leading the way perhaps on a 3rd and 2 from inside the red zone for TCU. On the option, Dalton with a pitch to Wesley. Wesley cuts it upfield and picks up the first down to the 10. Joe Dale is a Texas kid. The senior from Irving had to stop. This is a big game for Utah in many ways, Aaron, not the least of which is Kyle Whittingham would love to make better recruiting inroads in the state of Texas. Tonight's 1st and 10 line is brought to you by Allstate. Joe Dale, who made the stop, is out of Nimitz High School. He's one of a handful of Texans on this roster. I talked to Whittingham about it this week as a flag comes out, and he said, you know, the key with Texas is just the sheer numbers. Last season, they had 400 kids from Texas high schools go Division I. Here's the call.
Illegal substitution on the defense. 5-yard penalty. First down.
That's the second illegal substitution that's gone against Utah tonight. What's happened?
They're using up tempo. That's one of the things that TCU does. They lull you to sleep and then hurry up, and guys don't know what's going on, and they catch teams trying to make personnel adjustments.
And a jump on the side. The left tackle also moved. Let's see what the call is. Nick Richmond has replaced Marshall Newhouse at left tackle right now. If it's against Utah, it'll be their 2nd offsides tonight. And it will be their 6th penalty of the game. Here it is.
Offsides, number 42 of the defense. That penalty being forced half the distance to the goal. First down.
Well, the former linebacker, 9'2", with the jump.
Take a look at that, Tom. TCU has been flawless. That's a disciplined football team. Maybe Utah's trying to do too much, trying to maybe overcompensate. They've got to be able to settle down.
Here are the big boys, 2 tights, loaded backfield. Shivers, Curley, and Turner back there. And this is Curley. Powers his way to the line and in. I thought Curley was a speed guy.
He ran with power on that one. Utah's defense did a good job of sniffing that out, but Curley dropping the shoulder, being physical. Keep your eye on him. He's over here on the right-hand side. Going to be running. He gets the ball. Utah knows where that defense is, but great job blocking. Drops his shoulder and just runs over the safety. That's great job of being physical. Again, TCU is dictating the tempo, and Utah unable to match it.
Curley is at his best in big games. Evans with his 3rd extra point. Remember last year against BYU, a game that put TCU back on the map in the conference? He blew BYU up with his running game. And tonight, he does it to the fellas from Salt Lake City. Let's take a look at today's LG Game Day moments. It has been a fantastic week to be a Horned Frog fan here in the Metroplex. They got it going early, and I have a feeling they're going to be going late. Life seems good here in Fort Worth, Texas, as the fans enjoy their weekend. And some of the Utah folks have escaped the snow up in the mountains to come down here and enjoy weather that was in the upper 70s today. Short sleeves here tonight, 21-7, 4th-ranked TCU leads Utah. And just a reminder, we've touched on the national implications this game has in a big scope. That is certainly important. There's also a conference title on the line. And Utah are the defending champs. They say, don't forget about us. You're going to have to come pry it out of our hands if you want it.
Thus far they have, and they've been doing it by playing physical football and been playing mistake-free football. It's been Utah thus far tonight that's turning the football over and having penalties.
Shaky Smithson gets it on a hop. He wants to bring it out. Smithson stops in his tracks, and he gets swallowed up at the 16-yard line by Tanner Brock.
Well, one of the mismatches, Tom, that's starting early on is Jerry Hughes against right tackle for Utah. Tony Bergstrom does a good job using his hands. When a tackle's getting beat, he has a tendency to want to reach and drop your head. That is a recipe for disaster against Jerry Hughes, and you have to be able to block him. Utah right there thinks that that young man doesn't have the speed to get out there. They're making a big mistake. Look to see what Utah's going to do to be able to adjust for number 98, who's having a tremendous game so far.
3rd in TCU's history in sacks, and all three of those guys in the top three played under Gary Patterson. Wynn backtracking and incomplete. They're trying to get it out to wide on the screen. Wayne Daniels and Corey Grant had the pressure. Look at this number. 43 yards in penalties for the Utes, 42 yards through the air, and the majority of those came on a 31-yard strike to Devontae Christopher.
Tom, this is the #3 defense in the country for a reason, and Utah can ill afford on the road with a freshman quarterback to hurt themselves and take any of those yards away from their offense.
Hughes, the senior from Sugar Land, Texas. Wynn hit as he throws, and he floats one to the sideline. It was Hughes who got to him, and you know what that did? That turned David Reed into a defensive back to stay in front of the TCU defender so he couldn't pick it off and make sure it got out of bounds and fell incomplete. 3rd and 10.
I'm surprised Utah is still leaving Tony Bertram out there on the edge, not doubling, chipping him with the back, leaving a tight end to double team him. He is single-handedly disrupting their passing game. Tell you what, Tom, I have a vote for the Lombardi as a past winner, and Jerry Hughes is a very deserving candidate.
He's one of the 4 Lombardi finalists. Wynn gets man coverage and incomplete. Coverage by Rafael Caprice, a 5th-year senior out of Dallas. He got beat by Reed, then he recovered.
Well, there's no secret that TCU is a quarters team, which means the defensive backs divide the field up into quarters. Rafael Priest does a great job running step for step with David Reed. One of the reasons this TCU defense is so good is because they have a lot of faith in Nick Sanders and this young man, Rafael Priest, and that is why. That allows them to load the box with 8 and 9, and that's a critical piece to why they stop the runs real well.
Priest coming off of an ankle injury. Had started 47 straight, 2nd longest streak in the nation. Here's Curley. He's got the sideline. Buckle up. Curley picks up a block. Jeremy Curley with a 52-yard punt. They may have outkicked his coverage because Curley was able to bring it back all the way back into Utah territory, a 38-yard return.
One of the things that you need to be able to return punts is have good vision. Jeremy Curley does a good job of knowing when to accelerate and following his eyes. His return team is doing a good job blocking for him, but Curley has tremendous athleticism and does a good job smacking it up in there. TCU is dominating in the special teams.
Special teams tackle by Patrick Green. Dalton looks over the middle, complete. First down. Down at the 1. It's Young.
This is just a simple post pattern. The inside of the field opens up. He's the #1 receiver on the right side. Does a good job doing a square in. The cornerback playing too far off, undoubtedly because he has a lot of respect for Jimmy Young's ability to be able to catch the football. You can't win football games if you're playing tentative. Utah's going to have to step it up.
Previous play is under further review. Ruling on the field, the runner was down at the 1.
This is a bit of a throwback game for the TCU receivers. Ryan Christian has 3 catches and touchdown, and Jimmy Young with that big play. 2 integral parts to the 08 team. And the question is, was he down or did he roll over into the end zone?
Right there, his knees down. The ball had not crossed the plane. Great job by the CFO West crew of using their eyes.
It was Robert Johnson who had the coverage, the senior from Watts in South Central LA. Preseason all-conference safety. He's picked up Andy Dalton a couple of times in his career. His interception last season for Johnson sealed the Utah victory, which propelled them to an undefeated season and a Sugar Bowl win against LSU. Pardon me, against Alabama.
After further review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. First down.
Tom, Utah's not doing themselves any favors. This is the 3rd start in Utah territory. They're throwing the ball on first down and having some success there as well. They're 5 for 7. Utah's offense is getting a head start by starting on the other side of the 50 and keeping this Utah defense off balance. They don't know what's coming at them.
1st and goal, TCU. Newhouse is back in at left tackle. Tight end Frosch is there. Antoine Hicks in motion. On the ground and a big pop at the 3. But Turner surges forward to the 1. It was Koamisi along with Stevenson Sylvester.
Koamisi doing a good job on the right side of your screen here, getting inside and getting pushed up in front. They're not blocking people off the edge. Misi shows up late coming off the blocks. TCU's got to sustain better down here in the red zone.
Full house again in the backfield. On the ground. Touchdown. TCU, Antoine Hicks. Antoine Hicks is the money man.
Well,
21 touches on the season, 8 touchdowns.
If first you don't succeed, try again. They went upside in the middle. Utah was stout. They thought they were going to come back there. Great play calling by Fuente and Anderson, the offensive coordinators by TCU, to try and use that speed and get to the edge.
Another extra point opportunity for Ross Evans. And we have all but forgotten about his field goal miss on TCU's second drive, thanks to the play of guys like Antoine Hicks, former Texas signee, now a Horned Frog, and it pays off for TCU. Number 4 TCU with a 21-point lead over Utah. Now let's take a look at the Chili's game review.
Well, it started first of all with the run game inside. TCU taking control of the line of scrimmage. It's what they want to do. They're a very balanced offense, and Matt Tucker does a good job of punching it in. But old shaky Smithson does a good job of punching it into the end zone, and the open field move by Ryan Griffin. Great job of getting one-on-one matchup on the side, but there's a third phase of teams, that's special teams. TCU, bam! Great job of controlling the tempo of this ball game and controlling the line of scrimmage. Inside, outside, TCU is keeping this Utah team pretty off balance. But don't sleep on Utah. They have an ability to be able to come back in this ball game. They just need to settle down, get a beat on what TCU is doing, and they clearly have an opportunity to be able to respond and put some points on the board.
It's a TCU law firm getting it done. Tucker, Christian, Curley, and Hicks. The kick goes over Smithson's hands. No time to recover. And shaky Smithson hustles his way out to the 11. 9-yard return. After this, Texas hop.
When it rains, it pours. It just seems that nothing's really going the way that Utah would like.
Time to take a look at the Bud Light Stat 6-pack. 42 passing yards for Utah, 43 yards and penalties is what you don't see on there. And already 12 first downs for TCU to just 2 for Utah. TCU leads the nation in forcing 3 and outs. 38% of their opponents' drives result in a 3 and out. They can get one here. They can take even better control. Smithson in for the direct snap, trying to capture the edge. Now he changes his mind, and hesitation's a killer. Has to hurry back to the line. Tank Carter and Jerry Hughes with the stop.
They may have been there for the stop, but it was Wayne Daniels over here on the left side. He does a great job of keeping contained. He stays back. He goes down the line of scrimmage, stays flat, and then comes back and forces Smithson back into his coverage so Tank Carter and Jerry Hughes, his teammates, can get there. That's a good job staying home by the backside defensive end.
He didn't have the stop. Can we give him credit for a half tackle?
I say we give it to him.
Junior from Kilgore had a sack last week against San Diego State. Win with time, intercepted. Tank Carter.
True freshman on the road trying to make something happen. Typically locks up on his receiver. He never takes his eyes off him. He telegraphs it. Tank Carter doing a good job reading the young quarterback's eyes. Just breaks on the ball. Locks on the receiver. Takes a while to get the ball out. Costly and unfortunately typical mistake for a freshman quarterback.
A 15-yard return for Carter. His first pick of the season. And a mob scene on the TCU sideline. Eye test? Yeah, I think they look pretty good. 35-7 Frogs. Undefeated and 4th-ranked TCU leading 35-7. A pick 6 for Tank Carter, the sophomore from Sweeney, Texas, is just happy to be on the football field. When Carter was 13 years old, he was involved in a car wreck. He was tossed from his SUV, his friend's SUV. Eyewitnesses said that while the SUV was spinning upside down, Carter had a hold of the back window. That saved him from being thrown from the car. When the car finally rolled into a tree, Carter was on the ground with a broken back in 2 spots, a collapsed lung, a punctured diaphragm, and he ended up spending 6 weeks in the hospital, loaded up on blood thinners, among others. He also spent some time in a body brace as a 13-year-old, and by the time he got on the football field at Sweeney, the only thing he was allowed to do was kick off and serve on extra points. His responsibility, put the ball in the air, grab the tee, and run off the field. It's a little bit more physical than that now. Short kick handled by one of the Yup men, and Utah will have good field position out to the 30. Coming up at the half, watch a special sneak preview of The Blind Side, starring Sandra Bullock, in theaters everywhere this Friday. It's based on a fantastic book, Evolution of a Game by Michael Lewis. The story follows Ole Miss left tackle Michael Orr, now with the Baltimore Ravens, his impoverished upbringings through his years with the Tui family, going from the inner city to the suburbs in Memphis. I wonder right now if Michael Orr could slow down Jerry Hughes.
That would be a matchup I'd pay to see.
On 1st and 10, 6 yards on the ground. Corey Grant with the stop. He's one of just a number of Frogs who have made their impact felt this evening.
Well, this is what Jerry Hughes does a good job using his hands, getting the tackle to be able to turn his feet. Does such a great job. And then Raphael Priest running stride for stride with David Reed. They're so good out on the edge in one-on-one coverage. And then you might as well have told them where you're going to throw it, telegraphing a pass by the young freshman quarterback.
Braylon Broughton brought backside coverage on Jordan Wynn, who had to send that one over to the equipment manager on the Utah sideline. And that will bring up a 3rd and 3. That's the first time tonight we've seen Jerry Hughes flop to the other side, this time to work on the left tackle, Zane Beadles. Why not keep Hughes over Bergstrom?
Well, you want to be able to switch up, and it's a little bit of a chess match. Sometimes teams will slide it back over there to double team, but if Hughes lines up on the other side, it forces them to change their protection or leave the other tackle one-on-one.
They run away from Hughes, and that picks up 3 yards for Sauson Shakarim, the junior from West Valley, Utah via Snow College. Shaq came on big time against New Mexico last week, one of 2 100-yard rushers, 16 carries to hit the century mark and a touchdown. He was battling injuries early in the season, didn't even make the trip to Oregon. His first carry as a Ute, he had a 46-yard run against San Jose State. On that carry, injured his wrist and his shoulder and missed the next few games. 4th and 1, Utah will punt it away.
Those splits looked a little tighter on that one.
Curley able to recover his miss, and the special teams tackle by sophomore J.J. Williams. Let's go down to the field and Lauren Shahada.
Well, on the Utah sidelines, a lot of heads are hanging. Morale is way down. Coaches keep trying to pep them up, trying to get something going, but it's going to have to come from these players.
Lauren, you're absolutely right, and this was a TCU team that had their heads hanging after the loss last season. The motivating message all week in the Utah locker room from head coach Kyle Whittingham is that we're the champs. We own the trophy, and they have earned nothing yet when it comes to a Mountain West Conference title. They'll have to take it from us, and it's a series that Utah has dominated in the win column. Little screen set up, that time to Jimmy Young. Dave Kruger had the tackle. Even though all the games have been very close, the fact that TCU has won just one of them, and they've lost 4 in a row, including at Salt Lake City last year and here 2 years ago, would make you think that Utah has some sort of advantage over TCU psychologically, if not on paper.
Well, they certainly had an advantage a couple different ways, and on the field was one of them. They graduated so many different players last year. The bottom line is this Utah team isn't the same team that we saw last year that punched Alabama in the mouth. With that said, they still had the same persona and they still have the same attitude, but TCU is so good on both sides of the football, it really makes a lot of pressure on the other team.
Dalton will take off again. And another designed run for Andy Dalton. Mike Wright had to stop. And that's going to be right at the first down marker. Let's see if it was enough to move the chain for TCU. Andy Dalton ran in a couple of touchdowns last week, and it seems like tonight they're putting a lot of trust in the redshirt junior to take off and use his feet.
Yeah, Coach Anderson said, you remember, he said, hey, I didn't want to really run Andy that much, but he's the type of guy that isn't afraid to tuck the football and smack it up in there. He's a fearless leader. That's that moxie that we talked about he had at the beginning of the ball game.
Over the middle, complete. Bart Johnson has room to roam. Bobbled it, but stuck with it, and he takes it all the way down to the 32-yard line. The junior from Brownwood, Texas, brought down by Brandon Burton and Joe Dale.
Tom, you can't get much more open than Bart Johnson is doing. The middle of the field open, wide open. Probably a blown coverage for what they're doing. You see number 12, Joe Dale again, a guy that missed the tackle on Ryan Christian for the touchdown. You have to wonder if he was lined up right.
Second catch for Johnson. He's now got to grab in 19 straight games.
How about TCU up 28 and still throwing the football?
Just turning into a message game. Here's Christian. Both of these coaches respect each other, but TCU needing not to send a message across the sideline to Utah, but to send a message from coast to coast that they belong with the nation's elite. Can they accomplish that by continuing to pile on the points tonight?
There's no question. This is a pretty dang good one-loss Utah team. You have to remember, they're ranked number 16. We talked about the advantage that TCU has over Boise State. It's the strength of schedule. This isn't a bunch of JV kids that they're running the ball up and playing defense on. This is a very good football team, but it's an indication, Tom, of just how good TCU is, and they're trying to let the country know it.
For the most part, TCU has been compared to Cincinnati and Boise State. They think they should be compared to Alabama, Florida, and Texas. To the end zone, incomplete. But let's take a look at how TCU matches up with Cincinnati out of the Big East and Boise State out of the WAC. They're 4, 5, and 6 in the BCS. All are undefeated. Strength of schedule edge belongs to TCU. Will increase after tonight. They have 4 wins against the top 75. Bearcats have 5, and only TCU owns a win against a BCS top 18. And those numbers are over the last 2 seasons. Remember, only this season matters, but it's very easy to go back and look at the fact that TCU came from behind and beat Boise State in the Poinsettia Bowl. Dalton, flag on the play, and he scrambles out of bounds.
And remember, Tom, they've been on a run. Their 2 losses were against Oklahoma, the team that played in the national championship last year, and this Utah team, the team that played Alabama in the Sugar Bowl and beat them.
As the officials discuss this, you take another look at the play. You know, how would you compare them? Just right off the chart. TCU versus Cincinnati and Boise. What makes TCU, in your eyes, a better program and in a better situation right now?
Well, I think because, first of all, they win with defense, and you have to win championships there. Cincinnati does a great job. Ryan Kelly coaches those guys up on offense. They just seem to open up a can of quarterbacks, but they don't have the defense that they need. Boise State has a very good defense, and they have a very explosive offense. Kellen Moore does a great job at the quarterback position, but the significant difference is a defense and an offense and a schedule that is worthy is what makes TCU so good.
Penalty enforced half the distance. First down.
Last season, Joe Dale against TCU had 9 tackles and a key 16-yard sack. Here he gets flagged for the hold, and that'll set up TCU inside the red zone, inside the 10, and a 1st and goal. It's a homecoming game for Dale out of Irving, Texas, just up the road. It is scramble to find tickets for all of his family and friends. 1st and goal. Ground game for Tucker. He has 1 rushing touchdown tonight. Stevenson Sylvester with a pat on the backside to Josh Vernon, the right guard, who lost his hat on the play. Undefeated, 4th-ranked TCU taking on 1 loss and 16th-ranked Utah from Amon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, Texas. On a fantastic night for football. Tom Hart alongside Aaron Taylor, joined by Lauren Shahadi. And thanks for being with us on the CBS College Sports Network. Many of you are getting perhaps your first look at this TCU team. 2nd and goal, Dalton. To the end zone, nearly picked. It is off the deflection, brought down in the end zone by Lamar Chapman. He was down in the end zone, and the ball will come out to the 20. Flag on the play at the end of what was already a play that had been whistled dead. Here's the look.
Very costly mistake. A lot of mustard on this ball. Safety does a good job. Joe Dale's right there to be able to tip the ball. Tips it right into the hands. Curtis Clay can't catch it, but Lamar Chapman comes up. Another costly mistake where TCU enters the red zone and comes away with no points.
Here's the call. First pick of the season for Chapman.
Ruling on the field, we have an interception for a touchback. After the play, unsportsmanlike conduct, number 21 of Utah. Penalty being forced to the 10-yard line, 1st down.
It was Chapman who got flagged. It was Chapman who had the pick. And so instead of being at the 20, they'll back him up. Now keep in mind, Chapman's knee was down in the end zone, so this return never should have happened. And Chapman spikes the ball out at the 30-yard line.
I think that's just a sign of frustration, but you saw Stevenson on the play before getting a little bit of chippy. This Utah team can ill afford to kind of fall apart at the seams. Their defense got a great turnover. They need to chill out and make something happen offensively.
On the ground, Eddie White picks up 2 yards. Eddie White came into this game with a school record 6 straight 100-yard games. Tonight, 6 carries for 11 yards for Eddie White III, with 6.5 to go before the half.
Well, if Gary Patterson and his defense are going to do anything, it's going to be able to stop the run. Right now, TCU's doing a great job of that, forcing Utah to be one-dimensional, and that's not where you want to be on the road with a freshman quarterback.
Utah has taken 60 yards off because of penalties. They've only picked up 60 yards of offense. Wynn trying to turn that around. Great hands, hauled in at the 50, and they say incomplete to David Reed. Pardon me, complete at the 50-yard line. And Reed with the falling grab has Utah in business, a gain of 38.
Once again, Rafael Priest is right there, but David Reed, great job readjusting to the football. Holy smokes. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the type of player that David Reed is. Tremendous effort to be able to change where his body is and going out and snatching that football. But they're going to take a look at this upstairs. Great catch by that young man.
Previous play is under further review. Ruling on the field is a catch.
Reminds me of me in my old flag football days, Tommy.
You guys had instant replay for flag football? Well, it's a Utah offense, Aaron, that just has had a hard time getting things going. What can they do to make the freshmen more efficient?
Well, one of the things that he likes to do is take shots like this downfield. I mean, that's the offense that he ran in high school, was taking vertical shots. So maybe that's what the coaching staff is doing now. Doesn't help to be able to try and run the football. They're only averaging 1.8 yards per rush. But if you can take some shots and move the chains like this and maybe get lucky and get some big plays, you can get something going offensively.
Is that a catch in your mind?
Absolutely. Looks like it was to me. Great job of body control, being able to twist and contort. I believe his hands were underneath it. He didn't need the ground to be able to trap it. And as a reminder, the ruling on the field is assumed to be correct. What they're looking at in the replay booth is for compelling evidence to suggest something else.
After further review, the ruling on the field stands. 1st down, Utah.
A big play for the Utes. They sit at midfield with freshman quarterback Jordan Wynn. working out of the shotgun.
That's an example of TCU being in some sort of man coverage back there, whether it's quarters or man free. They leave their cornerbacks one-on-one on the outside. Utah's be best advised to try and take advantage of that.
Zone blitz, win. Down the sideline for Reed. Great hands! Touchdown Utah! An unbelievable grab by David Reed, going over the top of Sanders and taking it in.
That's one thing that this young man does. We talked about his accuracy at the beginning of the game. His comfort zone, his eyes have a tendency to go downfield. Beautiful touch, but even better job by Reed. Great hand strength, being able to turn around and jump over the 5'10" Nick Sanders. A little bit of a height advantage there, but that's the sort of thing you need to turn yourself around. TCU needs to be careful. Utah may just get the momentum that they need.
Joe Phillips bangs through the extra point with 5:35 to go in the second quarter. Consecutive big plays from senior David Reed. The first one took him to midfield. The second covered the final 50.
Welcome back to Amon G. Carter Stadium, the center of the college football world tonight, and the people in purple getting what they want, a 35-14 lead over Utah with the Mountain West and more on the line. Coming up at halftime, Tony Barnhart will join me for more on the BCS implications involved in what looks like a solid Horned Frogs performance thus far, plus Sam Ryan and the guys in New York with all the scores and highlights from around the country, including a Big Ten champion and USC going down again. But now let's send it back up to Tom Hart and Aaron Taylor.
All right, Adam, thanks. I'm just excited that we're able to tear Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart, away from his comfort zone down there in the SEC and his home base of Atlanta and show him what Texas football looks like tonight.
Yeah, you know, Brian Jones is in the studio pretty happy about that as well, but talking with Tony earlier, he's been very impressed with this TCU ball team.
Here's Curley following his wedge, and Curley tries to bounce it out to the 20-yard line. And look who's out there in the middle of special teams. Jerry Hughes is on the kick return team for TCU. As if he hasn't done enough tonight.
Whatever it takes to win, and that's the type of leader that this young man is. He wants to contribute. It's his senior year. He's had a tremendous year already, but that's part of the unselfishness that marks these Gary Patterson's team. He lines up anybody anywhere to help out, and they all make a difference, and Jerry Hughes is a perfect example of that.
So miscommunication on offense for TCU. Antoine Hicks stays in the game, was getting ready to come out. Wesley is in the backfield. They try to set Wesley up, and here he goes. Wesley with a first down out to the 31. Let's go back down to Lauren Shahadi.
Well, this is the Froghorn, and it's loud. I can promise you that. All 120 decibels of it. It sounds every time TCU scores. But what's funny, if you look on the side, there's a dent, and I found out it's because when a Texas Tech player got upset because TCU beat them, he banged his head in it. I don't know if that's impressive or unfortunate. I don't know what you call it.
Well, Lauren, I do know one thing. That won't happen anytime soon again because Texas Tech has asked out of TCU's schedule next season. Here's the speedster, Sky Dawson. He took a lick after a few yards. Robert Johnson with the tackle. Here's a flag in the play. And we talked about how it's tough, and everyone knows it's tough for Boise State to schedule quality opponents. That has come out this season. It can be tough as well for some of the Mountain West schools to schedule those opponents.
After the play, personal foul, number 25 of the defense. 15-yard penalty, first down.
75 yards in penalties against Utah. But now all of a sudden, Texas Tech has said, you know what, we're going to move our Texas game. Because of that, TCU, sorry, we can't play again. And the Horned Frogs have to go back to the drawing board to find a suitable major conference opponent to fill that spot.
Well, why in the heck would anybody in the country want to play them? Look what they did this year. And the teams that they beat, particularly on the road.
Two tight ends, Ryan Christian, the tailback. Christian is met in the backfield and has nowhere to go. Christian Cox with the stop.
Well, it all started out with TCU. They were leading the ACC before any ACC team was. They go on and they beat Virginia. Virginia struggled on this year, but Clemson has it. They're in first place in the Atlantic in a rain game on the road. They find a way to win, come back at the end of the game, make a statement, and then finally BYU with pressure and turnovers and running game up front. BYU has sent a message. It doesn't matter who they play. They show up big. If I had a team, Tom, I wouldn't want to play these cats either.
2nd and 12 now for the Dalton game. Play action. Dalton incomplete. They weren't just wins in those games. When you look at the numbers, 412 yards of offense against BYU. They held Max Hall and company to less than 300 yards against one of the better passing offenses in the nation.
And that's what they do. They're a balanced team. TCU has always had a very good defense, but offensively has been the difference for them this year. They've really stepped up in each of those ball games on the road, over 380 yards of offense. Very, very balanced running the football as well as throwing it. That's what makes them so special. And tonight what we're seeing is special teams turning up.
3rd and long for Andy Dalton. They set up the screen. Brilliant play call. Turner tries to bounce it to the 45, and he works his way towards the marker. Lamar Chapman had the stop.
100% agree with you that it's a brilliant play call, but play calls don't mean squat if you don't execute. They do a good job. Utah brings the heat, bringing up front. Turner just sneaks out of the backfield, catches the ball right there, wide open in the big bodies, running in space. I love it as an offensive lineman, man. You're running downfield on a screen. You think you're rolling. You go back and watch the film, and it looks like you're in slow motion.
Well, sometimes it can be uphill for you big boys. It is 4th and a yard. And Gary Patterson trying to decide what they're going to do. Gary Patterson in the offseason, they lost offensive coordinator Mike Schultz to Illinois. Got with his co-coordinators Justin Fuente
TCU
and Jared Anderson.
30
and he
seconds.
said, I want a more aggressive offense. Let's be a team that can take control of a game offensively. Well, 4th and 1, is it worth it being aggressive here?
Well, I think with this lead, you certainly could go for it, but you have to think about what you risk. You shorten the field for Utah, which has some confidence going. Maybe with the way your defense is playing, you kick the ball away, get yourself some good field position, give yourself a chance for your punter to have a win finally. Their offense has been doing such a good job, and they've been controlling the line of scrimmage. It's going to be interesting to see what they call here. I love it, man. If it's me as a player, I want to go for it here, but they looks like they're going to be conservative.
Anson Kelton, third-year sophomore out of Fort Worth, on the field. Remember, he had a bad punt. He was first of the game. He went for just 14 yards. Brandon Burton has 4.3 speed. He's back to return. This is a beauty. TCU will down this ball at the 2-yard line. Now let's take a look at our outstanding day of coverage here on the CBS College Sports Network. It started with a major upset in Conference USA. George O'Leary's Knights of UCF upset Case Keenum in 15th-ranked Houston 37-32. Bryn Harvey had 178 total yards and 5 touchdowns today. Then Ricky Dobbs was added again for the midshipman. He led the way as Navy took care of Delaware 35-18. Dobbs set Navy's record for rushing touchdowns in a single season with 22. And at midnight, 2 of our nation's finest institutions battled out when VMI heads up to West Point to take on Army. Keep it tuned to the CBS College Sports Network. Football first. From the 2 to the 3. Darrell Washington with the stop. The big threat has become senior David Reed.
David Reed doing a good job of using hand strength in his body to be able to go up and take footballs away in jump ball situation. Not easy to do, to be able to contort and look over your back shoulder. And then finally one-on-one over Nick Sanders, just going up and taking the football, just like TCU's trying to take back the Mountain West Conference Championship.
38-yard grab, a 50-yard grab. Now 60 grabs on this season. Utah loads it up with 2 tight. Using a fullback here. Toss out of the end zone to the 3-yard line. Nothing there. Alex Iboliye in there along with Jerry Hughes and Tank Carter.
Well, Tom, you talk about the role that field position plays. This is the second straight possession for Utah inside the 10-yard line. That makes it a very long field, which with a freshman quarterback means more opportunities for mistakes. I think that was a good call by Gary Patterson to punt that ball away, to pin them down, to give their offense possibly a chance to play on half a field.
And let your defense get the ball back for you as Utah faces a 3rd and long. And this Utah defense, this TCU defense has been magnificent against the run tonight.
And that's what they do. They play aggressive, but like we talked about, they play a lot of man or quarters so they can load up the box with 8 or 9, and it cost them tonight with those big plays by David Reed. So that's a double-edged sword, their ability to stop the run.
Utah averages 5 yards a carry on the season tonight, only 2. Capacity crowd on its feet, 3rd and 8. Utah has converted 2 of 6 third-down opportunities tonight. The freshmen win from the end zone. Handoff and a wide-open right side. He didn't get it. Nick Sanders with the stop on Eddie White.
That was a great call on the misdirection. The entire TCU defense thought it was going to be a play to the right. They come back and over-pursue.
30-second timeout.
Coming just short of the first down.
Consecutive timeouts by TCU, and they stop the clock with 1:48 to go. Utah facing a 4th and 1. Coming up later in the game, we'll have the Home Depot tools to victory. Fantastic scene here at Fort Worth, not just tonight, but throughout the weekend.
Utah's already had 1 punt block tonight. They're going to have to make sure that they block this one up good. They're back to those wide splits between the center and left guard again.
TCU will set up for the return. Curley says stay away. A short kick will come to rest at the 44-yard line. A couple of extra seconds tick off the clock. 1:35 for Andy Dalton to go to work against the Utah defense. What kind of message would a score here send?
It would send that no matter what, TCU is trying to win a ball game, and they're capable of scoring and having a quick strike offense that you're going to need to be a balanced team. TCU is trying to put as many points up on the board as they can to try and win the ball game. This isn't a situation where they're trying to run the score up. Utah proved that in 2 plays they can very quickly put points on the board. TCU is going to try and put this one in the end zone, get some more on as they go into halftime.
Dalton tries to check down, gets away from Koa-Misi and scrambles out of bounds. Let's take a look at tonight's Macy's Bio Blast on Utah linebacker Kepa Geisen, a Hawaii native. Originally came to campus as a pudgy punter. He has transformed himself into a mean linebacker, just 220 pounds. His dad, Blaine, was a quarterback at Hawaii and turned into a safety in the NFL with the Falcons.
That dude must have been a yoked-up punter.
Dalton. Complete. This is Wesley. 3rd down coming up. R.J. Stanford with the stop, along with Kepa Geisen.
Wesley's somebody that they like to throw the ball to out of the backfield. In the last 3 or 4 games, he's had a touchdown catch, so he's also a threat, obviously, as a receiver, and they like to give him the football.
3 touchdowns in the last 2 games for the freshman from Irving's MacArthur High School. Here in the Metroplex, Dalton faces pressure, gets it away for a 1st down. Dalton took a lick. So did Curley, and there's a flag on the play.
Utah was trying to bring the pressure, but this is that moxie we talk about with Andy Dalton. Staying in the pocket, this ball gets released before the receiver makes his break. He knows he's going to get hit. He knows he had to deliver the football right on target. That is the accuracy that makes Andy Dalton so good. First you're tough, then you're accurate. Great job by the junior.
Personal foul, illegal helmet contact, number 17 of the defense. Penalty being enforced half the distance of the goal. 1st down.
Kyle Whittingham doesn't like that call. Robert Johnson came in full speed to make the tackle. You be the judge. His head was up there, But Aaron, he hit him with the shoulder pads. His head was behind the receiver.
I would agree with you there, Tom. I don't think that was helmet to helmet. It certainly wasn't malicious. Looked like he led with his right shoulder there first. Been a point of emphasis for the referees this year. A lot of penalties late.
Prior to the snap, false start, number 76 of the offense. 5-yard penalty, first down.
That's the first flag on TCU tonight. The yardage difference in penalties is 80 yards. The advantage to TCU.
How in the world as a center do you get a false start?
Another flag. Let's go back to that penalty 1 second. I know the rule and I appreciate the rule. I think it can be unfair.
False start, number 70 of the offense. 5-yard penalty, first down.
The time it's Marshall Newhouse is what TCU did last year in Salt Lake City. I think that is a very tough play to watch as an official with these guys moving so fast and hitting so hard.
And that's why they have the ability to be able to look at the replays in the booth.
That went right through Wesley's hands and into the midst of Jeremy Curley.
And I agree with you, Tom. What's even more shocking is what all the challenges we've seen, particularly in the SEC, where they make mistakes even watching the replay.
Oh, second and goal now for TCU after consecutive penalties. Dalton with the completion. Now he goes to the end zone, and that's incomplete. And that'll set up third and goal.
Here, TCU's backed themselves up 10 yards unnecessarily with a false start by their center, Jake Kirkpatrick, and Marshall Newhouse, the left tackle. To be a good team, you can't afford to be able to shoot yourselves in the foot. And looks like they're going to bring on the kicking unit now.
They're going to bring them on third down.
A lot of times in these situations, you'll kick on third down in case there's a missed snap and you fall on it, you get another try to kick a field goal.
Evans missed from 26. This is from 30. Got it. So a third down kick, and Ross Evans recovers to put it through. TCU has put 38 points on the board here in the first half. Decibel level rising at Amon G. Carter.
Good job putting some more points on the board before you're going to halftime. If you're Utah, you hope to be able to get a big return and maybe get out to midfield, give yourself a chance and maybe take one shot at the end zone. TCU is going to have to make sure that their coverage teams do as well as their return teams have tonight.
What does that tell you about Gary Patterson's mind that in this game, with less than 20 seconds to go before the half, getting 3 points even with this big lead was important enough that they kicked on third down?
Well, I think you always have to hit the gas pedal, Tom, and to win big, you got to go big, and you can't play too conservative. That's what he was talking about, is attacking against Utah that showed in that drive in their second touchdown the ability to be able to strike quickly. I don't think you can score enough points, not only to win this ball game, but also with the message you're trying to send the rest of the country. That man's breaking a sweat. Utah struggling on special teams tonight, bobbling kicks, blocked punts. You need to make sure that they handle ball security on this next play.
Wesson and Smithson are back. A squib kick taken and bobbled and falling down at the 30-yard line is the Utah tight end, Ben Henke. Well, it's been a rough first half for the Utah Utes. This was the second kick of the game. David Reed couldn't handle it after the hit. And then a blocked punt set up another TCU score. Penalties galore. 10 flags, the tune of 85 yards. This pick 6 by Tank Carter. And TCU has been rolling. 2 turnovers tonight for Utah. And a blocked punt. And Jordan Wynn, the freshman, will take a knee to finish the second half.
Kyle Whittingham has his work cut out for his team going into halftime. Not a whole lot you can say other than Utah's doing a better job of losing this football game than TCU is winning it.
Utah has been a come-from-behind team not only the last 2 weeks, but also last season in this marquee matchup in 10 versus 11. They were stuck in neutral, only had 6 points at the half. They came back to win 13-10. But they had veteran quarterback Brian Johnson at the helm this season. And tonight they have a freshman quarterback, Jordan Wynn, who's been pressured all night by that relentless TCU defense. 38-14 is her score at the half, and as TCU hits the locker room, they do it with a big-time edge here in front of a full house at Amon G. Carter Stadium. Let's take you down the field for Lauren Shahadi and head coach Gary Patterson.
Yeah, Coach, going into the half with a big lead, how do you get your guys to keep the momentum going and not get complacent?
You know, they came back on us before. You saw the two-play drive they had. So all those guys are explosive. They were playing at home. Everybody needs to stay in their seats. We need to play another 30 minutes.
Good luck, Coach.
Thanks.
Second in school history to the legendary Dutch Meyer. Meyer said, we'll fight him till hell freezes over, then we'll fight him on skates. No skates needed tonight. TCU in control. Stay tuned for Inside College Football with Adam Zucker and Tony Barnhart after this. 38-14, fourth-ranked TCU leads number 16 Utah. Let's go down to the field and Lauren Shahadi. Tom Hart alongside Aaron Taylor. Aaron, so therefore, how important is this first drive of the second half for Utah?
I think it's critical for this team to be able for them to generate something offensively. They didn't do anything they needed to do in the first half, which is control the line of scrimmage, run the football, avoid third and longs and that sort of thing. This Utah offense, and as a team, needs to make a statement. They deferred in the first half. They've got to be able to take advantage of this opportunity.
Second half underway from Fort Worth. Chance for a return for the Utes. And the freshman quarterback will be back on the field. Freshman Jordan Wynn at this time last year was directing Oceanside High School in California. When he got to Salt Lake City, he quickly established himself as the #1 quarterback on the depth chart. Talking with offensive coordinator Dave Schramm, he said, hey, we had to do it. You got to call somebody #1 because we had 2 quarterbacks who hadn't played one down in major college football, and they needed some reps. He ended up losing the job to Terrence Kane. But when Kane struggled a couple of weeks ago against Air Force, he was in pulled the next week after struggling again against Wyoming. And making his second start tonight is Jordan Wynn. He's only played 8 quarters of football. Eddie Wide on first down loses a couple. Darrell Washington is there. We said at the beginning that Eddie Wide and this running game needed to produce to take some pressure off of Jordan Wynn. That hasn't happened. Can they make that happen in the second half?
Well, they're going to have to stay balanced, and it's almost like you have to start over in the second half and do what you did in the first half, which is mixing up your play calling. But a young freshman quarterback can't ill afford to hold on to the football like he did on that play.
Now TCU doing what they did in the first half. Second sack of the game. This time it's Kelly Griffin.
Kelly Griffin with some shake and bake and staying active. He gets that sack along with Jerry Hughes because of hustle. There is no quitting this TCU team, and that offensive line of Utah, even though it's a big task, has to give the quarterback time and the running backs some room to run.
Give him something.
Whatever I'm trying to say.
Wynn sets up the screen, blocking out front out to the 26-yard line. Goes Sasson Shakirin.
I'll tell you what, number 43 for TCU, Tank Carter is having a heck of a ball game tonight. He is flying around all over the place, stepping up inside to stuff in the run or making plays out in the flats. Tremendous effort by that young man tonight.
4th and 7, Curley back for the return. Sean Selwood is the Utah punter. He's had 1 block tonight. They only send 3 after him, and Curley from the 30 makes the first man miss, splits the next 2, and with a spin move takes it out to the 37-yard line. You know what made that so tough? Jeremy Curley lost a shoe. Tonight's real-time fan poll brought to you by Burger King. Which one of the following 3 matchups would you most like to see in the BCS national title game? For the SEC champ against Texas Tech C1, if you want TCU Texas, and most of you do, looks like send C2. If you'd like to see how TCU would match up against Florida or Alabama, text C3. Turner and Wesley in the backfield. This is Ed Wesley. Pardon me, it's Dalton after he pulled the ball out, and Dalton keeps it himself to scramble for 5.5 yards. That will leave second and manageable for TCU. TCU's had an offense that has stayed on schedule tonight. Utah's been anything but on schedule.
No, from the very beginning that this game started, TCU's been able to dictate offensively the tempo of the ball game. They were forcing the defense, Utah, all night long to be reactive versus proactive. And anytime you're doing that as a defense, it ain't good.
Number 30, Sky Dawson in the game. He's a speed threat. Comes back with Dalton. Instead, they put it in Turner's belly, and Joseph Turner with Dawson as the decoy takes it out for a first down past midfield. All right, we want to know which team you think TCU, you'd rather see TCU play, or what national championship game you'd like to see. What do we know through the first half tonight, and what has TCU proven to you, Aaron Taylor, in terms of where they belong in the postseason?
Well, we were talking about it this morning on about mile 17 or 18 of the treadmill, Tommy.
It was a busy morning.
About the fact that TCU, what makes them so good is their ability to be able to stop the run. Both Alabama and Florida have offenses that are dictated by running the football. They struggle to have quarterbacks that have yet to prove this year that they can beat teams and make plays with their arm. That's why I think TCU would fare well against either of the teams that ends up winning the SEC. Texas plays tremendous defense. They've struggled with a run game. That run game came alive today, and Colt McCoy has started to settle down and kind of improve his interception-happy part of the first year. But imagine TCU and Texas, Big 12, against the lowly Mountain West TCU Christian team. That would be a tremendous opportunity.
Flag on the play, play action. Curtis Clay hauls it in for a first down. Great work by Andy Dalton to hide that ball in the play action to Dawson, who's only been used as a decoy thus far tonight. And there is a flag on the play. It might be coming back. Here's a look at the BCS resumes of TCU and Boise State.
And I think the key component there is the strength of schedule. TCU has gone on the road and performed week in and week out. Boise's marquee win was that win against an Oregon team in week 1 that looked like it was pretty pathetic, but then came around and had a good resurgence, but got knocked off by Stanford.
Offsides on the defense, number 42. Those penalties will offset. Replay second down.
So we'll do it all over.
So to finish that thought, Tom, I think the most impressive thing is TCU's body of work when compared to Boise State. Boise State is a good team, but the bottom line is we have a much better idea about how good TCU is because of what they're doing to a team like Utah, where Boise just simply can't say the same thing.
Is that something that we should be allowed to hold against Boise State? Their scheduling difficulties have been well documented. The fact that they play in a conference that doesn't challenge them on a weekly basis, especially at home, and fumble. Ball's loose. Did Turner pick it back up? Utah says it's theirs. Somebody's at the bottom of that pile. Jimmy Young didn't want anybody else to get in the mix. How many of those did you recover, big man?
A lot. I was always down around the ball, getting downfield, covering receivers, blowing guys up.
All right, Turner gets it back. Here's another look. It was stripped, popped out of there by Mike Wright, a tremendous linebacker. And the opportunity was there to haul it in by Christian Cox, but Turner won the game of Hungry Hippo. 3rd and 4 now. Can we hold that against Boise was my question?
I don't think so. I don't think it's about holding it against Boise. I think it's about honoring what TCU has done. Fortunately or unfortunately, they've had an opportunity to play top competition and survive. Boise's inability to be able to get people to be able to play them is their fault, not necessarily TCU's.
Mike Wright had the stop on Curley, but it came after he picked up the first down. Those short passes paying off for Andy Dalton. All right, let's take that line of thinking up the next level then. If they should be above Boise State and perhaps Cincinnati, an undefeated Cincinnati team out of the Big East, then how do you apply that logic to where TCU may end up in comparison with the Big Three, Alabama, Florida, and Texas?
And now that you're asking me word problems that I don't necessarily understand.
There's Ed Wesley. He takes it inside the 30. I think TCU gets caught in a game of logic here. If you argue that they belong in front of Boise for those reasons, then the teams from the SEC and Big 12 would argue that they belong in front of TCU for those very same reasons.
There's no question that that's the case. Again, you got to look at the body of work. Both of these teams, Boise included, have proven in big games that they have the ability to take on anybody in the country and knock them off. Boise did a tremendous job against Oklahoma. We all know and remember what happened with Utah against Alabama last year. But this, unfortunately, is the system we have, and that's why people are so frustrated with the BCS, because football should be played and determined on the field. And in our current system, that simply doesn't happen.
There's only so many games to go around. There's a flag on the play, another one.
Prior to the snap, false start, number 78 of the offense, 5-yard penalty, second down.
Josh Vernon, the right guard, three-year starter, jumped. No, regardless, from the national landscape and the perception of this league, what kind of impact did Utah's Sugar Bowl win over Alabama have?
I think it proved to the country once and for all that non-automatic qualifiers, if given the chance, can go in there and punch some suckers in the mouth.
Here's Dalton on the option. He lowers his head, picks up a first down. He is proven to be a tremendous running foot. Kepper Geisen with the stop.
You got to remember, Tom, that team last year for Alabama was such a physical football team, maybe the most physical in the country. And this Utah team, a lot of these guys that were on the same field in that game in the Sugar Bowl were on the field at that time playing very physical football. Whittingham has done a good job about getting these guys to believe and execute and play. They play physical football, and it's really opened the door for a team like TCU, who coincidentally started higher than they ever have and happen to be right now ranked high as they've ever been.
Dalton has plenty of options and great coverage downfield by Lamar Chapman, who already has a pick. Well, the Mountain West Conference has had a tremendous run since 2007 against AQ opponents. The SEC is tops, then the Pac-10 and the ACC, and I thought the Mountain West made huge inroads last year. You can look at the top of the league and you can look at the bottom of the league. The top, you can start with Utah's win against Alabama, and throughout the league they had a tremendous record. I think it was 7-1 against the Pac-10. But how about Wyoming? A Wyoming team, one of the worst two teams in the league last year, went on the road and won at Neyland Stadium and took down Tennessee. To me, although it didn't get as much attention, that sent as big a message as anything else did.
There's no question, but I think what happens is in the mind of voters and college football fans, they look at Tennessee's team last year and go, yeah, well, that was a team in trouble. That was a team that, you know, was going to be making a change of a team that was struggling throughout the year. So I think they kind of poo-pooed it. So going back to what Utah did against Alabama, that was legit straight-up football head-to-head, and the better team won. Utah smacked Alabama in the SEC, and that's a message that sends and opens the door for teams like TCU.
Dalton fires incomplete, looking for Curley. Again, good coverage by Lamar Chapman, who's had a standout night tonight for the Utes. An interception and great coverage on the last two plays brings up a 4th and 8 for the Horned Frogs. They're going to trot Ross Evans out to attempt a field goal. He's 1 of 2 tonight. Remember, he had those 2 misses last year in the heartbreaking loss. His kicks could have iced the game. Instead, it left the door open for Brian Johnson and the Utes to come from behind and notch the win. A 42-yard attempt. Got the leg and accurate enough to put it through. Ross Evans has put a pair through the uprights tonight, and TCU adds to its advantage, 41-14. 41-14, TCU in control against Utah. Tonight's hardest hit brought to you by Sonic, giving you more bang for your buck. First quarter, this was a bang. Loose ball covered by TCU. Tyler Luttrell was the one who laid the lumber down on David Reed. All right, speaking of banged up Utes, let's go down the field and check in with Lauren.
That's right. Eddie Wide rolled his ankle. They taped him up, but he's good to go. But on defense, defensive end Derek Shelby sprained his knee. He's out for the game, guys.
All right, thanks, Lauren. Not good news for Utah to lose anybody defensively. Shelby was he's a guy from Houston. He wanted to go to TCU, went to all their camps. He said, I guess it wasn't good enough. Now he's not healthy enough. Shaky Smithson from the 2.
Smithson from the 2.
About a 22-yard return that time for Smithson, stopped by Tanner Brock. Back to Fort Worth right after this. Back at Amon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, Texas, the undefeated and 4th-ranked TCU Horned Frogs getting it done against Utah, 41-14. The Utes with their second possession of the second half. Freshman Jordan Wynn complete. Darrell Washington had the stop on David Reed. Well, Reed has a couple of deep balls that he's hauled in tonight, a 38-yarder and a 50-yarder. He's a guy who's battling a hand injury that he suffered against New Mexico, and he goes to the sideline with a grimace here tonight. 3 catches for 92 yards for Reed. And Aaron, out of everybody on the Utah offensive side, he's become the only threat. Hughes with the bear hug on wide.
Tom, in championship football, great players make great plays. They step up and they find a way to be difference makers. Jerry Hughes is doing that tonight. Not only announcing to the nation that he's well deserving of some postseason awards, but that his team, a team that he leads, is capable of playing football on Saturdays with anybody.
Up for a host of individual honors and accolades. Shaky Smithson now in at quarterback for Utah. Running back will take the direct snap and take off to the left side. And Smithson, needing a couple of yards, gets him. Kelly Griffin in there for the stop, but Utah picks up a first down. So Shaky Smithson has become the running threat for this Utah offense. It's certainly not Jordan Wynn, who's a drop-back passer, and it hasn't been Eddie Wide tonight. Tonight's 1st and 10 line is brought to you by Allstate.
Utah's best chance is to be able to establish some sort of semblance in a run to make TCU respect it so that they can come back and switch up and throw the football and take some shots downfield. But it's hard to do when you got a defense as good as TCU's. What's allowed the Horned Frogs to be successful is that, unfortunately for the Utah, they've become one-dimensional. They're just not able to run the football.
Tate Carter was in there to blow up that last play. Jerry Hughes is having a monster night. You know, one more thing that we're seeing from TCU here in the second half. Remember the first quarter, they sent an extra man on a regular basis, sending 5 or sometimes 6. It's been only a 4-man rush tonight, which has allowed for great coverage. And Ibi Loye nearly had a pick. They can afford now to sit back a little bit and get those big guys up front to push.
There's no question, and they got burned by the blitz. It's a double-edged sword. You live by it, you die by it. Historically, Utah has been able to take advantage of TCU being too aggressive. We talked to Coach Patterson. He said, hey, when I was younger, I'm sending everybody. But as I've gotten older, I've learned you have to take calculated risks. Early on in this ball game, TCU's defense tried to blitz some, and it cost them. But when they can have a front four as good as they have, including Jerry Hughes, you don't need to bring extra rushers, although they do on this one.
A near pick, flag on the play. Tank Carter got his mitts on it, and Hughes was in the backfield. Now, Gary Patterson told us yesterday, he said, my mortgage payment is a little bit higher these days. I can't take those kinds of chances. A lot more on the line.
Number 54 of the offense. That penalty's declined. 4th down.
Tabita Stevens, the redshirt freshman right guard, forcing a 4th down, and Utah, unfortunately, is going to have to punt. Hey, man, you're not holding, you're not trying. I don't knock Tabita Stevens for that. This is a very active front 4 for the Horned Frogs.
The Jeremy Curley chant going strong. Fair catch. Takes it at the 29-yard line. 41 points already on the board for TCU. Did they need more to impress the voters? 5:21 to go in the third. 41-14. TCU leads Utah. Let's take a look at the icy hot quarterback hot zone. Andy Dalton has had time tonight to stand tall in the pocket. And when he's not standing tall and finding receivers, he's been a threat to run himself. It's not all just his arm. A touchdown pass to Ryan Christian got things rolling for TCU. Dalton tonight, 16 of 26, a yard away from the 200 mark, a touchdown and a pick. That was a red zone interception that he threw, trying to squeeze one in. Joseph Turner, play action to him. Dalton wants to go deep. Sideline, incomplete. Young maybe had a step on Brandon Burton.
TCU up 41-14, still trying to take some shots downfield, and Jimmy Young was covered pretty well on that time. Started to break away from the defensive back on the other end of it, but TCU again hitting the gas pedal, Tom, and as you said, my man, trying to send a message that we're a pretty dang good football team. Watching the body, sorry buddy, but watching the body language of Utah right now, a lot of heads hanging low.
Ed Wesley takes it this time on the zone read. Has nowhere to go. Lamar Chapman was in there on the stop. Barton Johnson, he called out in the film room for being driven back on his block. And that cut Turner off. Well, we've been calling Lamar Chapman's name a lot. Redshirt junior out of Compton, California, out of El Camino Junior College. And he's been all over the field tonight for Utah. It's really the lone bright spot, I think, defensively for the Utes.
Yeah, he replaced Joe Dale the last 3 games when Joe was out with a hurt knee that he hurt against Las Vegas, and gave him some confidence and did a nice job filling in. And tonight he's playing their nickelback and doing a pretty dang good job.
Pressure on Dalton, gets it away in the screen, but Wesley can't keep his hands on it. Oh, 4:26 to go in the third quarter. The clock stops as TCU faces a 4th and 10. And they bring Anson Kelton on to punt it away. I think TCU has to be very careful here. They're obviously in control of this game. But a couple of second half scores from Utah to make this game closer, or even make it a game. Folks wake up tomorrow morning, check the box score, they're not going to see the dominance that we've seen through at least the first 3 quarters.
No question. I would wholeheartedly agree with that. And it really seems like TCU is kind of taking their foot off the gas pedal. Some penalties, stalling drives, not converting first downs. You have to be careful when you're up and pretty much in control of a team that it's inevitable. It's human nature to kind of have a letdown and not necessarily not play as hard, but not have that same sense of urgency that you did earlier in the ball game.
Be sure to catch The Blind Side, starring Sandra Bullock, in theaters everywhere this Friday. The film stars Quentin Aaron as Michael Orr, Sandra Bullock and Tim McGraw as Leanne and Sean Toohey, Orr's adopted parents. Kathy Bates is in there as Miss Sue, his no-nonsense tutor. And oh, by the way, you might see a few coaches in that film, including our own Phil Fulmer, Nick Saban, Lou Holtz, and Tommy Tuberville. Here, don't think it's a mistake. Saban's in there as the LSU coach now, because when he was recruiting Orr, he was in Baton Rouge at the time instead of Alabama.
No question, there was some questionable acting jobs. It's a good thing that those guys are better coaches than they are actors.
Darrell Washington rides wide out of bounds.
Well, Tom, they say the defense wins championships, and TCU is 60-1 when allowing fewer than 18 points. Utah's got 14. That one loss was, of course, last year's 13-10 against this Utah team. Gary Patterson's calling card was that guy right there, Jerry Hughes, and the rest of that defense that does such a tremendous job, and they're playing well tonight.
Eddie Wyatt picks up a couple up the middle. Tank Carter is there again for the stop. All right, it's a 4-2-5 defense. Carter and Washington are the two linebackers. What does that mean in the 4-2-5 in terms of the linebackers' responsibilities that may be different from a 4-3 or a 3-4?
Well, TCU's defense is a 4-2-5, which means there's 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, and an extra and 5th DB that typically plays like a safety. He's kind of a hybrid, half linebacker, half safety. TCU prefers to play quarters coverage, which means that all 4 defensive backs.
That's what the linebacker does. Darrell Washington sent a message. He also got a flag.
Washington say that he led with his shoulder, and he certainly brought the wood on that one, bringing pressure off this outside edge. But on the crossing route, dips his shoulder, and looks like their helmets may have touched. It wasn't intentional, but you can hear it hit. Great job looking them up, but you got to be careful.
Both teams have been banged for a helmet-to-helmet hit that on the replay seemed like the tacklers each time led with their shoulders.
Just see him coming, Reed coming there right across on a crossing route. That's enough to turn a receiver into an alligator.
And here's the difference now. It may not have been helmet-to-helmet, but if it was a shot to a head, that'll draw the flag as well. And while Washington did indeed lead with his shoulder, Aaron, if the officials decide that that shoulder was delivered above the shoulders and into the helmet, they're at liberty to call that.
There's no question. The intention of that is they're trying to protect defenseless players. And defensive guys are always complaining that it takes away their aggression. But what we've seen, and guys getting so big and so strong in the post-concussion syndrome that they have, you really have to be able to protect these young guys. And certainly you have to be careful, but Washington did a good job of being able to look him up on that one.
That was Washington. Here's Hughes.
Doing a great job over the right tackle, Tony Bergstrom again. Bergstrom really struggling tonight, as most offensive tackles in the country have. Jerry Hughes is a force to be reckoned with, and what's been shocking to me is they haven't offered that man the help.
3rd and 3. Wynn backpedaling, chucks this one out of bounds. You know, Tony Bergstrom, the sophomore, said, I'm well aware of Jerry Hughes. I see him every day because I've got his picture on my computer screen, and now after tonight, he'll have him in his nightmares.
Well, he does such a good job of getting off the ball. Does an excellent job there, keeping his feet and keeping the relationship between him and Hughes and the quarterback. That's what you want to do as an offensive tackle. I will say this about Tony Bergstrom. The young man is competing. He hasn't backed down. He has a chance to be a very good football player because of this. Playing against Jerry Hughes makes you better.
4th and 3. Wynn dumps it underneath. First down. Eddie Wyatt, Tank Carter with the stop. 2:41 to go. Utah trying to put together a drive.
Tom, I tell you what, the game isn't over yet, but keep your eye on number 43, Tank Carter. So far, to me, he's player of the game, maybe with Jerry Hughes and what he's been able to do. 8 tackles, 2.5 for a loss, a quarterback hurry, 1.5 sacks. That young man is all over the field.
Wynn complete to the sideline to Reed, and he's up to the 15-yard line. Nick Sanders with the stop. Time now to take a look at the Bud Light Stat 6-back.
Well, if you had check marks, they'd all pretty much be on the right-hand side. There's that balanced offense of TCU again, doing a great job keeping the penalties to a minimum, and the sacks are being able to put pressure. But first downs, look at that, 23-7. Utah has struggled to get any going offensively as they sit here in the red zone. Important for the Utes to score here, Tommy.
2nd and 5. 4 men on patterns. Wynn wants to step up, puts a move on, and he scrambles to the 5, to the goal line, and he's down inside the 1. T.J. Johnson tracked him down. Jordan Wynn with the scramble. That's his longest run of his brief Utah career.
Heck of a job by this young man. The pressure closes in. Everybody's covered. Tucks the football. Throws a juke right there. And then uses some escapability and elusiveness to be able to get them down to the 1-yard line. Here's the time in the ball game. If you're the offensive line of Utah, you can send a message as well. This is as much about getting points on the board as it is about getting pride in yourself and getting some confidence back.
Tonight's Red Zone brought to you by Moto Blur. Eddie wide. Touchdown, Utah. There's the capper on the Utah drive. Kyle Whittingham wanted this on their first possession of the second half. They get it instead on their second. There's only a minute left in the third.
Well, Utah's offensive line just running power football, pulling the guard backside and being able to find a crease. They only had to get 1 yard. When you're down there that low, it's about want to. Whittingham has to feel very good about his team, that drive they put together and punching one in the end zone. But this brings up that point you said, Tommy. They're only going to be up by 20. That box score won't look nearly as impressive and dominating as this game's been.
So the Utah offense gets it going. Eddie wide from 1 yard out, plunges in. Can the TCU offense reignite when we return to Fort Worth? 41-21, 4th-ranked TCU leads number 16, Utah. Let's take a look at the Home Depot tools to victory.
Well, the story of the night's been the TCU running game. They even got their quarterback, Andy Dalton, involved, doing a good job pulling the ball down. And then you have Matthew Tucker, the freshman, showing his breakaway speed, getting into the end zone. And look at the physicality. Jeremy Curley said, I want some too. Let me poke it in there. And then finally, Hicks gets up in there and smashes it in. Great job by this offense running the football.
Coming into this game, Utah had allowed 130 yards per game. Tonight, they've already allowed $154, and there's a minute left in the third quarter. When TCU gets the ball back, I'm anxious to see if Andy Dalton can get his passing game back on track. Ben Broman to kick it off. Greg McCoy. McCoy takes it out to the 17-yard line. We have another terrific Saturday of college football coming your way. Tune in at 3:30 next week as the Air Force Falcons and their lockdown defense look to shut down the BYU Cougars from Provo. Then at 7:30, make sure you check out senior standout Damian Fletcher. Southern Miss plays host to Tulsa in a Conference USA showdown. That's next Saturday on the CBS College Sports Network. I'm looking forward to our trip to Provo. They already got some snow up there today, up to 8 inches in some places. You gonna bring your snowboard?
Bro, I'm a knuckle dragger. What you got? Are you a skier? Do you do the French fries or the pizza? What do you got?
Yeah, I do both of those moves. Absolutely. Injured player on the ground for TCU's fullback Luke Shivers, and the TCU medical staff tending to him. Gary Patterson out to check. Shivers kind of a dual role guy, fullback and tight end. And he's a good example of Gary Patterson's starters and their role on special teams. You know, Frank Beamer made a name for himself, and they made a name in Blacksburg as being a special teams squad because they always had frontline players out there. Now Gary Patterson has done that same thing here. You put your best athletes on the field. No longer special teams reserved for second stringers.
Well, yeah, I mean, special teams is such an important phase of the game. I mean, think about what Virginia Tech has done. You think special teams has played a role in what they've been able to do? Absolutely. TCU this year and their ability to be able to return has done the same thing. The bottom line is 1 in 6 plays is a special teams play, so you might as well have your best athletes out there on the field to give you a chance to win.
All right, so with a minute left and Luke Shivers being tended to on the field here at Amon G. Carter, we'll step away for a break. Back after this. Luke Shivers, a sophomore from White House, Texas, is on the TCU sideline now, left the field on his own power. He's part of the 3-man wedge on this kick return.
Keep your eye on him. He's going upside. You got to be a big dude and be strong to play the wedge. He drops his head there. The defender from Utah just drops his shoulders, and that's what these referees are trying to take away. Saw a little bit of the mummy that taken place. Those headshots, man, those take a toll on kids.
To the right side. And a couple of yards on first down for Ed Wesley in front of, Joseph Turner in front of a packed house tonight, and a new Amon G. Carter attendance record. 50,307. And I know the folks here in Fort Worth are most proud of this. Not that 50,000 plus came through the turnstiles, but different from all the other attendance records that they had here that involved another in-state school. 99% of the fans here are in purple instead of in Texas Tech fans or A&M fans or wearing burnt orange. These are all hometown folks and home team folks.
There's a little section of red, and that's been the most quiet section in this stadium tonight. The fans that came from Utah, everybody sitting down, see a couple people walking out there. Long way to come to watch their team shoot themselves in the foot and maybe not perform as well as they're capable.
15 minutes of football left from Fort Worth. It's the end of the third quarter. Fourth-ranked TCU leads Utah 41-21. It's a great night to be a Horned Frog. The 14-7 game after one. The TCU piled it on in the second quarter. Utah held the advantage in the second half thus far. I'm Tom Hart. Aaron Taylor protects my blind side, and Lauren Shahadi's down on the field with us tonight. 157 yards on the ground tonight for TCU. Oh, you can change that now. Add a few more in there for Ed Wesley, finally tracked down by Stevenson Sylvester.
Well, Tom, prior to that play, TCU had 165 rushing yards, and they've won 37 straight. With that carry, put them over when they've rushed for more than 167 yards.
Another 19 for Wesley. He's going to take some of this turf home with him tonight. Those brand spanking new TCU helmets.
And this is your bread and butter. This is what you want to do, is put the hands in this young man. He's been the hot running back tonight. Feed him. Don't throw the ball through the air. Grind it out on the ground. Put the ball in the end zone.
Pass complete to Curtis Clay. Gain of 7 on first down. R.J. Stanford with the stop. All right, so TCU looks great in their new Nike uniforms. They look great in the first half. Then all of a sudden, Andy Dalton went 1 for 5 in the third quarter. They couldn't establish any rhythm. They couldn't get that offense going. What do they need to do to look great at the end of this game? What point total are we talking about?
I think they got to get over the 50 mark. Because Utah scored 21 points, you could look at a box score if the game ended right now and say, they only beat Utah by 20 points. Is their defense that good? Utah starting a freshman quarterback. They gave up 21 points. It doesn't really tell the whole story. You put up over 50, the assumption is your offense played great and your defense had starters, their second string in, which is what allowed them to score points. It's not fair, but make no mistake about it, it's what happens. TCU taking a long time to be able to get to the line of scrimmage, bleeding this clock.
Sky Dawson hadn't gotten a touch yet. He's only been used as the decoy, and now Joseph Turner makes him pay. Turner lowers his shoulder, picks up another 7, and Robert Johnson finally brings him down. How about the senior out of Austin?
Well, Matthew Tucker's the freshman that has the top end speed, but Joseph Turner does a good job of following his blockers and being able to keep it. And what a great job being a decoy Sky Dawson did on that play. But Joseph Turner doesn't have necessarily the quite top end speed, but does a great job averaging over 5 yards a carry this year for the Horned Frogs. It doesn't matter who runs it for this team, they get it done.
And he's done it on 2 reconstructed knees. Wesley to the corner, touchdown. Now it feels like that offense is going again. Dalton on that drive completes the pass to Clay, then it's all on the ground.
Well, you got to be able to run. It's just a simple G scheme where they pull the backside guard, but great blocking on the outside by Bart Johnson. Whether he's catching the football or getting out there, making room to run, that's the mark of a good team. If you got receivers outside blocking on the edge, making room for guys like Ed Wesley, you're getting things done.
.48 points on the board for TCU. A high-powered offense, 6th in the nation, averaging 37 points a game. They've done even better than that tonight. This 14-yard sprint finds pay dirt for the Frogs. 48-21, TCU in control. Let's go down to the sidelines and Lauren Shahadi.
Well, on the Utah false start early in the game, TCU's Ed Wesley got in the Utes' face. Coach Patterson grabbed him. He said, "This is not how we play football at TCU." He wasn't having it, but he looked good just a moment ago.
Wesley jumping up on Knifo 2. That's the play you were talking about. And then I'm sure Gary Patterson says, "We can look the other way if you keep doing this, young man."
I remember when I would make a mistake as a player, I would always know where in the film that was. So during the game, after I made a mistake, I'd run downfield, I'd try and cover the ball, try and knock some guys standing around the pile, do something to make up for it. Every time you make a mistake as a player, you want to have at least something on film that you have to look forward to and feel good about. And certainly on that play, Ed Wesley did it.
I feel the same thing about a broadcast. Yeah. You flub a word, you better stay perfect for the next few.
I got mad problems if that's the case for me.
Wesson and Smithson stand at the Utah 5.
Did this entire broadcast with marbles in my mouth.
Shaky Smithson from the 9. Shaky Smithson busts it outside. And Shaky stepped out of bounds just past midfield. Kevin Sharples, the kicker, had to force him out.
Tom, this had the looks of getting big right from the beginning. Great job. Big lanes opening up, and Shaky does what he does best, and that's shake along the sidelines, but he gets out there. Those are the type of plays that can turn this around. And even though Utah is down by 27, looks like his feet stay in bounds. Maybe right there is where they're calling his left foot out. Referee, the field judge, is right there on top of it. He's not the one that called him out.
May have cost him another 20 yards before he finally lost his balance. Looked like the shoe was inside. Regardless, Utah has to try and take advantage. A little bit of misdirection for Eddie Wide. Jerry Hughes.
Now, I've never been an offensive coordinator or know much about football, but Jerry Hughes is somebody that you have to make sure that you kind of block. Keep your eye up here on what he's doing all game long. He is a hustler, refuses to get blocked, gets Bergstrom off balance, is able to redirect, beat his blocker, and then get in on the tackle. That's why this young man is 4th on the team in tackles with almost 45 as a defensive end.
Freshman Wynn fires a bullet, and that's the first catch of the day for Iona Key.
Tell you what, for a true freshman, Wynn's hung in there. He hadn't fallen apart. The coaches talked about how much confidence this young man has. It's not fair starting him out on such a good defense. New Mexico was a good warm-up, but we talked about the baptism by fire. This game will make him a better ball player, get and be able to look at a defense like TCU's.
Here comes a corner blitz on 3rd down. Wynn takes a pop, and that one goes incomplete. Jerry Hughes is the one that put Wynn on his backside. Well, Wynn comes from a solid background. He's not the only California kid making an immediate impact in college football. A couple of other guys, freshman starters from the state of California, include, of course, Matt Barkley at USC. That got hammered by Stanford. The Stanford quarterback Luck is also a freshman from California, and of course Tate Forcier at Michigan. That should be a great indicator right there. If you're going to start a freshman quarterback, you're going to be guaranteed some bumps along the road.
No question, and what also plays a role in that is Jordan Wynn and a couple of those other guys were early entries. That's what we're seeing in college football. When these kids show up on campus early and graduate high school and can show up for spring ball, it gives them a much better chance to be out on the field on Saturdays the following fall.
Utah turns it over on downs, forced to go for it on fourth. Dave Schramm, the offensive coordinator, greeting Wynn as he came off. Schramm was the guy who recruited, Wynn out of Oceanside High School in California. And so they thought this kid was ready to go. Is there any reason, as TCU takes over an offense, is there any reason to put Terrence Kane into this game? Next possession for Utah?
I think maybe in the next possession, I think we talked about the importance of getting to that 50-point barrier. I think it's going to be important for TCU to finish out this offense, which has fought so well all game long, to put a final score, to put the nail in the coffin, and maybe the confidence and the ability for Utah with a freshman quarterback on the road to be able to win this ball game. And they have to do it running the ball, Todd. We talked about the struggles that Andy Dalton had in the first part of the second half, going 1 for 5. In the second half, when TCU's rushed on first down, they're averaging almost 12 yards a carry. Running the football is what this Horned Frog team needs to do.
Utah has been a standout defense all season, averaging just 16 points allowed tonight, 48. Here's Dalton. Dalton picks up the first down. Robert Johnson there for the stop.
I'm all about being aggressive and running, but maybe in this case you don't want to run your quarterback this late in the game unnecessarily if you don't have to. Well, that might be a good case because you can ill afford, as important as Andy Dalton is to this offense, to get that young man hurt.
You can't afford to lose him, that's for sure, but at the same time, you still got to go with your game plan. If your game plan is to put points on the board, and that's your third down call, well then that's what you got to do. Two tights in the game. Here's Tucker, and Tucker takes it up the hash mark to the 40, gain of 7 for the freshman Matthew Tucker. You know, this TCU team, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. They're having a great season. This is just kind of the foundation for Gary Patterson. I mean, next year should really be the payoff season for this program. Even if they finish undefeated this year, they'll have every running back except for Turner. Andy Dalton will be a senior. They've got some tremendous running backs, one at the redshirting Wayman James. Andre Dean, the transfer from UCLA, the 5th-ranked running back in the nation, as a prepster will be on the field. And they'll have one more year to get better, and that's scary, on defense. First down carry again. This is in the TCU meeting room, the pyramid that he puts up every year. The Code of Purple starts and beat the odds. They went on the road and beat Virginia and Clemson. Leave no doubt, win at home. Make it personal, be Mountain West Conference champions. Postseason, go to bowl and win. It would be the 11th in 12 years. Go to BCS Bowl and win. And will they have a chance to color in the very top peak of that TCU pyramid?
Well, TCU's done what they can do, which is control, and you might have noticed some autographs on there. That's not a piece of memorabilia. What Gary Patterson asked his team to do is sign that. If you don't believe that this is the plan to victory for us, don't put your name on it.
Ball came loose. TCU on the drive, and they cough it up, and it looks like Kepa Geisen came up with it. Geisen lost his hat, but he got the football.
Tom, this is the 3rd fumble by TCU, and these are the things that we talked about being able to have a chance to make a statement. Turner turning the football over. This Utah defense has no quit in them, but you can't be turning the ball over like that this late in the ballgame. This is not how you want to finish.
Well, remember what Gary Patterson told us. He said, my running backs sometimes fight too hard. They've got to learn just to go down sometime. Our fumbles occur when they're fighting for extra yardage, when they get turned around and they take a blindside hit. Wynn to the sideline, incomplete.
Jordan Wynn is taking an absolute beating. Jerry Hughes coming off the top of your screen, getting on Bergstrom again, bending at his waist, dropping his head. That young man is getting beat. Bergstrom, an offensive lineman, when you're getting off the ball slow, you have a tendency to bend at the waist. Nothing you do, pass blocking or run blocking, bending at the waist is going to get it done, particularly against a player like Hughes.
Hughes checks the defensive call from D-line coach Dick Bumpus. All the front four where the play call's on their wrist. Zone blitz again. Flag on the play. Kane dumps it off. Finds Shakireen, and he's out for a first down, gain of 14. Let's see what the flag is. Darrell Washington with the stop.
Keep your eye on Jerry Hughes. That's the get off. Bergstrom was beat on the snap. He does such a good job of getting his shoulder down underneath. Well, we talked earlier about Tank Carter maybe being the player of the game, but I tell you what, Jerry Hughes is making a strong statement. Maybe those guys are going back and forth for who's been the most impressive player. Tony Bergstrom's just having one of those nights as an offensive lineman that you hate, and they're leaving him out there on an island, forcing him to block Jerry Hughes one-on-one. That's not fair. They're not sliding to him. They're not chipping him with the back. They do line a back up in the backfield over on his side this time to maybe help him out.
Flag on the play.
Prior to the snap, false start, number 54 of the offense. 5-yard penalty, second down.
Well, the night's only going to get worse for Tony Bergstrom. The sophomore from Salt Lake will board the team plane after this. He'll fly back late at night. He's a homeboy there in Salt Lake, and he hates to fly. He doesn't want to get on the planes. He said, when I get on those planes, I get full use of the bags that they put in the seat pocket in front of me.
Got to be able to use what you get, my man.
When Hughes had a hand on him, incomplete. You think Hughes is having fun tonight?
There's no question he's having his will over on that other side of the offensive line. 8 tackles tonight, 2.5 for a loss, 1.5 for a sack. And again, one-on-one is Tony Bergstrom. Does a good job of running them around at that time. And against good defensive ends, sometimes just getting to redirect is a great play.
3rd and 25. I got a question for you after this play about getting Tony Bergstrom some help. 3-down lineman.
I don't have any eligibility left on.
Shakireen tries to get the outside. He takes a hit from Ibi Loye. Okay, you've said it throughout this game. Tony Bergstrom is fighting as hard as he can, but he's been out on an island all night. Why haven't the Utes gotten him some help with a running back or a tight end?
That is the question. I have no idea why. Part of this offense is having running backs out in the field and being able to have them as checkdowns and having multiple options at receiver, but it's hard to be able to throw the football to anybody when Jerry Hughes is up in your grill. I think it's more important you have to stop the rush and give yourself a chance to allow the receivers and the routes to mature and take place, and they're just not finding a way to be able to block that young man, and it's really not fair to Tony Bergstrom. He's done that to every offensive tackle he's played this year.
A boomer of a punt, and Curley takes a fair catch at the 25-yard line. That was a 52-yarder off the foot of Sean Selwood. 7:10 to go. Can TCU get past the 50-point mark tonight against Utah? 4th-ranked TCU leads number 16 Utah 48-21. Let's take a look at the drive of the game. Brought to you by Scion.
Just running the football, that's how you make your bread and butter. Ed Wesley doing a great job with the football. And then again, coming back inside is Turner, getting the outside, using edge. Not quite the same speed, but still effective nonetheless. And then finally, Ed Wesley doing what he does, crossing the goal line. It's been the three-headed monster in the rushing attack that allowed that drive to be successful.
That was the 3rd drive of the second half for TCU, from the 3rd carrying into the 4th quarter. And finally, Sky Dawson gets a chance to run the football. I mean, he's been used as a decoy all night.
They like the speed of this young man. He gives them an option there. And when you run the zone read, there's a couple different things you can do. You can do a speed sweep off it, do the quarterback power up inside, or just an inside zone with the read option the outside, and Sky Dawson gives you the ability to be able to capture that edge, which forces defense to widen out, and that's when you counter by punching them up the good.
There's Dawson again, and Wesley has room, and Wesley taken down inside the 10.
As I was saying, they fake the speed sweep going inside. Right back up inside goes Ed Wesley. Good top end speed. But Robert Johnson has the angle on him, swoops him down and gets some help there from Ryan Lacey at the end. He can't quite punch it in the end zone in that one, but as hard as he's ran tonight, he's probably pretty gassed, but he's going to get teased in the film session by his teammates for getting snatched.
64-yard run for Wesley. He's over the 100-yard mark now. 12 carries for $137.
Timeout, TCU. They're first of the half.
So TCU uses a timeout. They're knocking on the door again. How important is another touchdown for the Horned Frogs? 48-21, fourth-ranked TCU in command with under 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Here's what the BCS top 10 looks like tonight. Florida outlasts South Carolina at Billy Bryce by a 10-point difference. Alabama takes care of Mississippi State tonight on the road. Texas hammered Baylor, and the number 4 team in the nation, TCU, with a commanding lead. Last night, Cincinnati held off West Virginia for a 3-point win. This afternoon, Boise State took care of Idaho, and Georgia Tech steamrolled Duke. Those are the undefeated and one-loss teams in the top. USC got hammered. LSU took care out of conference of Louisiana Tech. There are a lot of teams that after tonight are going to try to stake their claim in the BCS race. I think we can all agree that if things finish out, regardless of strength of schedule, regardless of how impressive Texas has or hasn't been so far this season, the almost ideal matchup for many college football fans would be the SEC champ against Texas.
That's what a lot of people want to see. Unfortunately, they may be making a big mistake there. We all know, again, what Boise and Utah, 3 of the 4 times the non-automatic qualifier has done when they've gotten to the big dance. TCU would be able to give anybody that's above them right now a chance in the national championship game.
Second touchdown of the night for the freshman Matthew Tucker from 9 yards out.
Well, this is the physicality of this TCU team and running the football. When you're up by what they are in the fourth quarter with only 5 minutes left, you go to your 4-minute offense. You know that you're going to be able to run the football, pound it up inside. Utah has nothing left. They are dominating the line of scrimmage up front. The Horned Frogs are, and it shows. Well over 300 yards rushing tonight, Tommy. That's an O-lineman's dream. That and all you can eat buffets.
I know that about you. 539 yards of offense for TCU tonight. Kyle Whittingham, former defensive coordinator, now head coach at Utah. I don't think he saw this coming. TCU's put a double nickel on the board. Speaking of those numbers, we'll give you a chance to check them out. I am shocked, quite frankly, that TCU has been able to do this to the tune of a 34-point advantage with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Well, I tell you what, looking at the film, I'm not necessarily surprised. They do such a good job in all phases.
Time to take a look at the Bud Light stat six-pack. 539 yards of offense, 332 on the ground. Utah, yes, they shot themselves in the foot with 100 yards of penalties. But they did a much better job of cleaning that up in the second half. In the second half, it's especially the fourth quarter, it's been TCU dominance.
Well, this is what they do, Tom, and this is what's different about this TCU team this year. In the previous years, they've always dropped a game on the road. They caught Utah on the road the last 2 times they played them, and they got beat. But the difference here is the offense is finally capable of performing with the defense. This is the 3rd straight week that this TCU Horned Frog offense has had 500-plus yards. They are a complete football team.
They'll kick it off with 5:06 to go. Covered by Smithson. Next man miss. Goes to find the sideline. Shaky Smithson past the kicker and a pass at 40-yard line. All right, we want to ask you this again. Time for you to take part in the broadcasts. Our real-time fan poll question brought to you by Burger King. Which of the following 3 matchups would you most like to see in the BCS title game? Texas versus the SEC is C1. TCU versus Texas is your choice at C2, or TCU versus the SEC in C3. Of course, that would be an old Southwest Conference rivalry renewed should TCU and Texas go head-to-head. And the next question for me, Aaron, and we asked Gary Patterson this, if TCU doesn't play in the national title game, and they qualify for a BCS Bowl by finishing undefeated, the question is, where would they end up, and would they get an opportunity to continue to impress voters? For example, if TCU has to square off with Boise for the second straight season, that'd be good news for non-AQ teams, because that would mean that 2 non-AQs got into the BCS. However, I think that's a no-win situation for the team that comes out on top, as opposed to, say, the opportunity for TCU to play the loser of the SEC title game.
No question. I think something else it also does is opens the door for speculation to say, hey, we don't need to change anything. 2 non-automatic qualifiers for the first time of playing. They're getting more opportunities. We don't need to change anything. What are you guys complaining about? So I think you're right. There's a double-edged sword. You really have to be careful what you ask for. But I think what the country wants to see, everybody loves a train wreck and an upset. Everybody wants to see TCU play a Texas or the SEC champion. That would give us the most intriguing, compelling story and the best chance for a quote-unquote upset. With what the way TCU playing, wouldn't be an upset at all.
3rd and 9 for Jordan Wynn and company. TCU brings 4. He gets it away, and that'll be not enough for the first down. Tank Carter with the stop on Iona Key. We asked that very question to Gary Patterson yesterday. What would you think if you had to face Boise State?
Personal foul. Roughing the passer, number 95 of the defense. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
That's Clarence Leach who gets flagged. What would you think? Would you rather have an opportunity to face an AQ team as opposed to Boise State? And he said, guys, what are we complaining about? If we get there, we get there. Let's not be too greedy and then decide who we get to play. TCU has never had that opportunity. Let's just first get there and then focus on it once that happens.
And that's really the thing about football that's going to allow you to be successful, is focusing on the things that you can control. No different than life. You can't worry about what you can't worry about and control. Do what you do, which is win ball games.
And Wynn shows off his arm. That's one thing he does well. TJ Johnson finally with the tackle on Kendrick Moe.
You can't get more wide open than that, and Wynn does a good job of putting the ball exactly where he needs to the backup tight end. It's only the young man's second catch of the season, and it was a big one, getting them all the way down to the 5-yard line. Wynn goes to the sideline, and Shaky Smithson comes back in. Remember, he had a touchdown. They ran a power play where they pulled a backside guard. Let's see what they come up on this play.
It was Moe who had the grab. Shaky Smithson is in there. Quarterback Terrence Kane is in there as a wide receiver now for Utah. The near side, bottom of your screen. And the flag before they get it off. Play clock went out.
On the offense, 5-yard penalty, first down.
The surprise in this formation is not that Smithson is out there to take the direct snap. It's the involvement of Terrence Kane, the former starting quarterback. 7-1 as a starter that they have lined up at wide receiver. Kane is a Texas kid. He played at Blinn Junior College. He's originally from Houston. His head coach at Blinn, Brad Francione, son of Dennis Francione, who not only is a former head coach here and hired Gary Patterson, but originally recruited Gary Patterson to Kansas State. Fake the handoff to Kane. Smithson looking for his second TD of the night. He's got it. And with 2:29 left, Utah finds its 3rd touchdown.
Smithson does a tremendous job of having feet. I mean, Shaky is a great first name for this guy. Keep your eye on middle linebacker Daryl Washington. Meets him in the hole, beats the blocker, misses the tackle right there, doesn't wrap up, and Shaky Smithson does a good job of punching it in the end zone. That's not the quality of defense that TCU can play, but credit Utah's offense for finding a way to punch it in and outwilling them on that one.
55-28, 2:29 to go in the 4th.
At Amon Carter Stadium, record crowd, over 50,000 on hand, and they have witnessed TCU domination here, 55-28, and a lot of them are sticking around. There's talk of goalposts coming down, and well, welcome back to Fort Worth. Adam Zucker with you as we get set for Inside College Football Extra. Coming up after our game, we'll have the players joining us, and Lauren Shahadi will speak with Coach Patterson as TCU tries to close this one out. Goalposts beware, Tom and Aaron.
All right, Adam, thanks. Onside kick attempt by Utah. TCU's Frost knocks it out of bounds. You know, I've thought about a couple things here when it comes to the goalposts, and if they come down. You've got two choices. If they take the left goalpost down, they may go right up through the stands. If they take the right goalpost down, there's one way to get off the field. And that is a ramp and a walkway that goes towards the visiting locker room. But more importantly, it goes right past our set. And Adam Zucker could find himself in a jousting situation.
On the kicking team, that 5-yard penalty will be added to the end of the run. First down.
I know Mr. College Football is quick enough to get out of the way of goalposts coming his way. I think Zucker might just try to stand his ground for the sake of the show.
Well, there's no question. I mean, every morning before we go on air, he's out there doing his Tybo tape, and he's on the blue tape now. So he's well-versed in self-defense, and I think Zucker would have a shot.
Andy Dalton is out of the game. Marcus Jackson is in, and Drusell Fort is the tailback behind him.
Please
Jackson.
set the game clock to 2:21.
Jackson has been fantastic as Andy Dalton's backup the last couple of seasons. And when he's had an opportunity, he's put up big numbers. Fort finds a couple of yards on the right side. Tonight's Polaris hardest working defense is dressed in purple.
The Purple People Eaters did just that. 6 tackles behind the line of scrimmage. That means they're getting penetration that you need. Quarterback pressures all night, only 2 sacks. It really doesn't tell the story. Wind was on his back all day long, and only 65 rushing yards. Coming into this game, Utah was averaging 187 and 5 yards a carry. They weren't even close to that tonight. We talked about controlling the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. Whoever did that would win. Clearly, it was TCU.
Running game continues for TCU. Before we get closer into the game, I want to thank everybody who made this such a success. And Adam Zucker and Tony Barnhart coming down and taking the show on the road. Steve Herbst and Ross Malloy making everything happen here in Fort Worth. And the opportunity for us as a network to showcase what I believe is one of the best conferences in college football, and what I believe is one of the best teams in college football in TCU, and a tremendous atmosphere here. The Horned Frogs got national attention this week, and all well deserved. And it's going to continue for Gary Patterson's squad.
There's no question, Tom, and I want to thank myself. It's really been a pleasure. Really been a pleasure working with me.
Yeah, you deserve that. It's your birthday. You know, great help tonight in the booth. Mercedes Mayer, Bill Cousins, Jamie Handy, Bill Hadley have done a tremendous job. Now we take a look at a Bud Light Stat 6-pack, and it is obvious that TCU has done a tremendous job this entire evening. What number is most impressive?
I think it's the total yards, 539, and the balance that they have. 332 rush yards against anybody tells the story. You win football games up front. TCU was able to do that and grind it out. And defensively, whatever it was that Utah tried to bring to the table, seemed that the Horned Frogs had an answer for.
So a satisfying night on Hell's Half Acre for TCU tonight. And a happy birthday to you, partner.
Thank you, buddy. 37 years young.
Gary Patterson gets the victory. His team moves to 10-0, 6-0 in the conference. Their first win since TCU's first ever Mountain West Conference game back in 2005. Great job in the truck, guys. Carlo Gennarini, Michael Pittman. Hard work all week and tonight, among others. Fans are on the field. Fireworks going off. Can TCU continue this run? What looks to be a pathway to a BCS Bowl, and if not more, for the undefeated Horned Frogs.
Got to give credit to Jordan Wynn, the young true freshman quarterback. Never quit, never stopped fighting. Utah just got beat by a flat-out better team tonight. TCU is one of the better teams in the country. They could not maybe even have the same scoring result. But if you think for 1 minute that this is a non-AQ school that hasn't played a tough conference or a tough schedule and couldn't compete with the big boys, you'd be sadly mistaken. What's going to be even more sadder, Tom, is if they don't get a chance to prove it come January.
Time now to take a look at our DirecTV player of the game. He was huge tonight. Jerry Hughes, 8 tackles, 2.5 for loss, 1.5 sacks. He now has 10.5 sacks on the season and 3 quarterback hurries. Down in the madness is Lauren Shahadi. Lauren?
All the pressure, all the hype, you guys killed it. What can you tell me about your team's performance out there tonight?
You know, first off, I want to give a lot of credit to the fans. I told them if they would show up, we'd play like this. We always have, and they did. I can't say enough about my kids. I mean, they've been special. We're so happy with game day being here, you guys being here, the whole group. We got 2 more to win, though.
You said you don't drink the BCS Kool-Aid.
No.
Are you at least anxious for a taste?
No, not right now. We got to go to Laramie. Long trip, maybe bad weather. We got to go get ready to play. So what? But I'm happy for them right now. I'm happy for the fans right now. And all the kids out there. This is an exciting time at TCU.
Absolutely. So it's back to work. What do you focus on going forward?
Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, Wyoming Cowboys. I'll be in, already have the tape ready to go.
Any chance we'll see these uniforms here again?
Oh, no. The thing was special. We had a one-time thing, but hey, thanks to Nike. Thanks for all everything they did because we played fast tonight.
You need to get yourself a glass of water. Good win, Coach.
Oh, I'll get a whole bunch of glasses of water.
All right, Lauren, thanks. You know, Gary Patterson said a couple of weeks ago, you're allowed to drink the Kool-Aid if you do it in the privacy of your own home. Well, the Fort Worth resident doesn't have far to go, just a couple blocks away to get to his house tonight. Enjoy a tall glass of Kool-Aid. I think that TCU belongs. 55-28 is the final. For producer John Norton, director Rick Baczynski, my partner Aaron Taylor, and Lauren Shahadi, our entire CBS College Sports crew, I'm Tom Hart. For